The foundation, we take it serious to talk leadership because it is very paramount to prepare every generation for what should come next, for what should be undertaken in order to make the next generation even much better than the past. Buli kyasa tukirora nkomugisa gwokwongerayo ebyo bitufora abamaani kandi abomugaso omunsi muno. Ikingura Kabalega akatuhereza ekyokurorwaho kirungi yatulekera obumanzi nk'obugwetwa obutahuwaho, yatulekera okukiwamu okusigikire ngu bwokiwamu okora ekintu okiremeraho kandi otuurayo mulingo kina kutuurwayo kandi kikayikali kina kuhika. So that is the legacy we commemorate and we celebrate. Kabalega was not just a king, but he was one whose energy traversed virtues of heroism, of confidence, and precision in decision making to protect his own people. And so we are here to have conversations on leadership because we look at one whose own leadership went up and above the normalcy of what we see every day. Nebigambe ebyo nkubasaba twemere. May we kindly stand up on our feet so that we welcome the keynote speaker for this afternoon for the second Kabalega Memorial Lecture. O Uganda, O Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hands, united free for liberty, together we always stand. Bunyoro kitara tukugonzanyi naitwe nitwa abana bihanga abakutamwe kitinisa ero turakoraki tukugize Omukama.
abarugire mu bichweka bya kitara ebikwahukana tuyinaho owekitinisa arugire omubukama bwa Buganda, tuyinaho omwijukuru arugire Busoga, tuyinaho engabwa ezirugire Ituri na Buhaya, tuyinaho abarugire Chope, kandi hariho n'abakuru baitu abamadini abenzarwa abebyobulemi abarugire mbichweka bikwahukana. Inywena nimbatangira. I'm standing on the protocol that has been established. I was asked to give comments on a simple topic. I've tried to change a few things as a mwalimu. Mwalimu means teacher. I have said that we shall do reimaging leadership for community transformation. And I'm presenting what had appeared first, second, that is leveraging culture, knowledge, and innovation, basically for community transformation. Amabara ni nyowe Julius Kiza, mwalimu Julius Kiza, abasinga nuko banyeta, abakuba ndi musomesa wa Makerere, nsomesa ebyobulemi, nsomesa obwekulembezi nsomesa enkurakurana obunyatungire kumanyisi bwangu bakwenda nyijembaze obugambo butoyito nyagamba ninyowoha kwe twakwijja kubaza hakiro kyo kwijuka omwekulembezi waitu omukuru Field Marshal Kabalega ninyowoha kandi nsobora ndakwanga kandi biri bintu bya Kabalega nyagamba nja kuyimukiramu. I am proposing that in this conversation, I look at the following: the meaning of leadership. Second, we ask why should we care about leadership today and how it relates to community transformation or its absence. Number three, we look at the multiple dimensions of leadership. Number four, I'll try to unpack community transformation. And I will point out that a main weakness in the conversation on community transformation today is narrowing the community to mean the village. The community, I will argue, can be global. It can be continental. It can be regional. It can be national. It can be local. It can even be household level. So this idea of transformation will be located in that broad spectrum. Why? Because the local is part of a larger spectrum. I will end with a comment on Kabalega's agential power. Agential power, not in the sense of Kabalega as an agent. No, not the principal agent theory. I'm talking of Kabalega's ability to cause things to happen. We are here because Kabalega was able to cause certain things to happen for the larger good, for the good of the community and for the good of the kingdom state of Bunyoro Kitara. In terms of the meaning of leadership, I'm inviting us to appreciate that a leader is a person who influences others to achieve desirable ends. Now, these desirable ends may be short-term objectives, they may be medium-term aims, they may be medium-term to long-term goals, they could be strategies, they could be visions, as we have in Vision 2063 of the African Union. What we prefer when we discuss leadership is to focus on smart objectives. For the avoidance of doubt and for the benefit of the school children, smart objectives are those that are specific, they are measurable, they are achievable, they are realistic, and they must be achieved within a given specific period of time. Smart, meaning don't tell us, I'm going to marry when I grow up. That is not good enough. You tell us, when I turn 20, I will marry. Don't tell me, Mwalimu, I will thank you when I'm happy. You say, by the end of your talk, if you communicate well, I will give you a cow. Now, I'm talking to Bunyoro. The Bunyoro are cattle keepers historically. When you are happy with somebody, give them a cow. Don't simply clap. That's how we design smart objectives. Leaders, I submit, exercise a high degree of influence, not necessarily force. You influence others to do the following. One, to get energized internally and externally. Internal energization means you can drive yourself. The external energization means sometimes we have to give a push to certain people if we want deliverables. And that's why Magufuli was a leader in Tanzania. For him, he said, and I quote, sijaji hapa kutafuta mchumba, hapa ni kazi tu. And that means that when people were crying that you're moving too fast, you're pushing us very rapidly, he said, look, I didn't come here to look for a suitor to marry. I came to work. And that's why Tanzania under Magufuli moved very fast. There's another leader, we are told we shouldn't mention him too much. But we have a few leaders in this region who have used a hand to give a push to the people they lead in order to get deliverables. At the same time, we have others who have been populists. If certain people in Uganda want to have jiggers, that's okay. They can have jiggers. Imagine turning a citizen into a 3-star hotel, 5-star hotel of jiggers. And you say you are a leader, and you just watch. Imagine having the most productive section of a society, the youth. They are doing a lazy man's job on borders. And we have leaders. Imagine having 67% of our graduates from universities unemployed, and we have the leaders. Imagine building narrow roads. We are spending 17.5 hours per week in a jam in Kampala, and we have the leaders building narrow roads. Imagine the conversation we had over the standard gauge railway line, with well-trained, refined economists arguing we need the narrow neo-colonial railway line instead of the broad highway, the standard gauge railway being built in Kenya and Tanzania. And we have leaders. So these are the challenges. Leaders get people energized so that whether they are there or not, things will happen. Leaders must go not just for results, they must promote structural, socioeconomic transformation. Leadership is associated with two other significant issues that are spaces used to get results. Leadership is associated with traditional administration and business management. I want to submit that whereas administration, management, and leadership all aim to get things done, there is a significant difference. I request my friend to flash that diagram, which has 3 chambers, please. So when we are looking at administration, we are talking of mainly the public space. We are talking of non-government organizations like our donors from civil society who have supported us for this event. Those practice administration because they are focusing on a hierarchical structure. They are focusing on rules and regulations and procedures. They are focusing on routine work in many cases, business as usual. They are focusing on doing things the way they have done them. The technology that they use, apart from civil society, traditional administration in the public space uses fairly backward technology. Management, on the other hand, takes place in the business sector. The key driver is profit maximization. In the business sector, the organization has increasingly changed from the pyramidal, the bureaucratic organization, to an organization that was termed in the 1980s and 1990s as the flatter, leaner, and supposedly fitter organization. The guiding philosophy for management was small is beautiful. In other words, a beautiful lady is one who is small and is portable, campus size. Now, if you are not small and beautiful, please don't worry. In Africa, we say big is big. Don't worry. In Africa, a beautiful woman is one who has assets, not necessarily one who is like the Westerners. When we come to leadership, I want to submit that leadership can take place in the public sector, in the business sector, but also in other spaces like civil society. What distinguishes leadership in terms of institutions is that it takes place in virtual organizations, the digital spaces. It leverages technology, modern technology, and works in the space we call the Internet of Things. The idea is to use information to empower the people you serve. The point is that you also achieve results through inclusivity. You don't simply tell people to wait, you'll serve them. You deliver by bringing them on board. Kindly flash the next picture. And the question we pose is, why should we care about leadership? Why should we, at the moment we are discussing Kabalega? I care about leadership, and I think you should care for 2 reasons. One is we are celebrating entirely Bunyoro, Kabalega. But second, Alexander the Great argued, and I quote, "An army of sheep that is led by a lion, like Kabalega, will defeat an army of lions that is led by sheep." The unfortunate thing is that some people in leadership positions are sheep. They are incapable of providing vision. They are incapable of guiding people where they should go. They are incapable of transforming society. their biological substance is occupying space. That is a fundamental crisis of today's leaders. An army of sheep that is led by a lion, such as Kabalega, will overwhelm a den of lions if their leader is as idiotic as sheep. Could we please turn to the next? I also care about leadership because there are too many excuses. Too many. Many people you come across will say, I am just a girl from Acholi. I'm just a woman from Kibiro. I'm just a fisherman. But I'm still young. I'm not yet even 40. And some will say, look, I don't have the official positions to exercise leadership. I'm only a church member. Now, all of those are funny excuses. I want to submit that leadership appears in all spaces, whether they are secular or sacred. Secular are worldly spaces, such as politics, such as public service. The sacred spaces are religious. So you can be a leader in politics. You can also be a leader in church. You can be a leader in government. You can be a leader in business. You can be a leader in a school. You can be a leader in the household. You can be a leader in security. You can be a leader in non-security spaces. Leadership happens everywhere. So no excuses. Don't say, I'm just a girl. You're not just a girl. There is a leader in you. Don't say, I'm just a little boy from the highlands. You are not just a little boy. There is a leader in you. And that's why I care about leadership. The next one, please. Leadership for community transformation may be political. It may be legal, in the legal space. It may be in the public policy space. From the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations under Agenda 2063 for the African Union to Uganda's policy spaces, Vision 2040 and the National Development Plans. But that's not all. Leadership for community transformation may take place through spaces of inclusivity. Today the selling points are gender, climate change, people with disabilities, parish development model. But you can have leadership for community transformation through the digital spaces we are creating, through robots and artificial intelligence, through data simplification and access. But we can also exercise leadership in the economy. Why does the economy matter? Because the Swahili say, and I want to quote, uhuru bila nguvu ya kiuchumi ni hewa kabisa. Uhuru bila nguvu ya kiuchumi ni hewa kabisa. I know Robert Owagonza knows Swahili. And he's the head of the laity, so I serve under him. Do you mind telling us what this little statement means? Uhuru bila nguvu ya kiuchumi ni hewa kabisa.
Waito msomesa wange omukwetegerezo kwange metu kabanza kusoma muri nyorohano nibo twagenda muri jungu no Ruswahili kikumanye sangu obugabe rundo kwerema oku tarumu etahya kuli kwabusa onde busamukindu
hati nkirese abo kuba mukuru w'abakristayo hata bakuru b'abakristayo bano bagamba mulete bisembo mulete kimu kya 10 mwanguhe. But have you helped us to create the source of this income? Because the freedoms you are giving us in politics and religion, in society and culture, if these freedoms are not backed by economic power, they are useless. That's why in all of our spaces, I have spoken to the Interreligious Council of Uganda. In every parish in this country, we have a representation of the Interreligious Council. Are you preaching liberation theology? Or theology which says blessed are the poor? How come the pastors saying blessed are the poor are rich, driving Hummers and building storied buildings? Why wouldn't we preach liberation theology which says yes, faith with action? Why wouldn't you use all the spaces, including the cultural and the political, If you are a leader, kindly appreciate that the freedoms you think you are invoking for the people you lead, if they are not backed by economic strength, they are useless freedoms. I have already mentioned the need for infrastructure. Advanced countries are building broad highways. In Uganda, we build narrow roads. We get stuck in a jam. It's like we are planning for a crisis. Advanced countries, China is now launching bullet trains. Even the USA is fearing China's speed. Bullet trains are traveling at over 300 kilometers an hour. Exactly. So here, we are not thinking that much in terms of unlocking the economy. My friends, China was as poor as us. In 1978, when they decided to change from Maoism to the ideology of the economy of Deng Xiaoping, 1978, where some of you were already born. I swear some of us have watched China grow, and all we can do is say, "Abantu bano bakukora, wewe abantu bano." But when you travel, why don't you learn and bring some of these lessons to our community? Infrastructure revolution, extremely important. There is that other aspect of environmental transformation, green growth, the idea that we need clean energy, that we are custodians of the current environment, that we shouldn't destroy the environment as we meet our current needs. Hatinga kuhizege hanu, katuanika na bana besomero. Abana besomero bali ni bazina hanu. Wakabyarage emitenga mu bwomezi bwabo. Ngukwa nyombi ale nkuku nituzirya nituzibura. Kwa ngamire nkuku zonka emiti byale emiti habo kuba emiti yokozesa ku cyumba oba kuombeka ukagisangaho. Can we also grow? The church can lead us. The community leaders can lead us. The politicians can lead us. Kabalega Foundation can lead us. We can say every day we celebrate this, we are going to plant trees. And yes, we can create a better environment for ourselves and those after us. I also care about leadership because, kindly flash the next one. I care because false models of leadership dominate our spaces. When you ask somebody who is your role model, these are the kinds of things they emphasize. Say, look, do you see that structure? There are no pointers. The structure above is from Keith Muhakani's. Does anybody know his official salary? What his official salary was? Less than 5 million. And he's telling civil servants as PSST, Permanent Secretary, and Secretary to the Treasury, you tighten your belts. Because he was speaking the language of the IMF and the World Bank. Tighten your belts, we don't have money. Now, this is the home. You will be surprised. Some of you will think it's a hospital. It's not. The home of Keith Muhakanis. I can speak about him because he's dead. You know the safety of that. Now, below, these people are living. You might think it's a regional referral hospital in Bukedea. It's not. It's a home. Now, whereas many of us take these as models of leadership, we do not appreciate that the way this wealth was amassed might be questionable. I'm saying might because that's what we do in the public space. How much do we pay the office of the speaker compared to the office of the regional referral hospital called Bunyoro, called Hoima? How much do we pay to this primary school teacher? Why are we underpaying our teachers and we expect learning miracles from our children? Why do we underpay doctors and expect healing miracles from the pastors? We have to rethink these issues because these are issues of leadership. Next, please. Now, this is a complex. Again, you might think this is Makerere University. It's not. This is a picture of the property of Sudhir Ruperera. The home. Yes. Now, these are the models influencing especially the Gen Z. Generation Z says, look, these are wonderful people. These are my role models. But do you know how he got his money? I like rich people. I also want to be rich. But the question is, do we all appreciate that this person used his business networks and influence to become the landlord of the Republic of Uganda? This is the landlord. Have you ever seen an idiotic individual who privatizes their property to become a tenant? That's what happened. And these models, I'm flashing them because we need to know that they are models influencing especially the young generation. Next one, please. Come. Okay. Now, the house below is Dr. Milton Obote's house. And we were told, or we have been told by so many politicians after Obote, the man is tall, he's a thief. Humble house. For somebody who was head of state, not for 1 year, not for 5, 2 terms. Now, when we raise this, these are symbols of humility. Today, you are having a Keith Muhakanizi, and you are having the speaker spending more money on the generators of 2 speakers than you spend on the generator of a national referral hospital. Who is fooling whom? Who is leading and who is misleading this society of ours? I also care about leadership because very few are looking at patriotic and transformative leaders as their models. Very few want to model themselves against great leaders. I will not embarrass the Okwiri, I will not embarrass the leader of the Babito to tell me who this person is. I will not. I will not embarrass by asking who this person is. But these have been great leaders. I'm not saying they are perfect. They are not. Nobody is perfect. My problem is that many of the people are not looking at these effective leaders as role models. The next one, please. Nor are people looking at Jennifer Musisi, great leader, no nonsense, almost like Magufuli. As a teacher of leadership and of governance, I really wanted more Musisis, not less, not fewer. Musisi was doing things which are hurtful, but which are good for the nation. Clearing chaotic structures, creating systems which work, creating what we call the livable urban spaces, the smart cities. And she was rebuked by the boss, who said, and I quote, "Edagala Musisi de yakozesa okute mese lyali kambwe nnyo ngenda kulisaabulula." I don't know Luganda, but I thought that meant I'm going to dilute the poison which Musisi was using to kill rats because it was too strong. Now, what I don't know is who are the rats? Who are the rats? So in other words, we need leaders, not misleaders. And we need transformers, not those just occupying space and claiming that they are serving us. So when will our people begin modeling themselves along the lines of effective, transformative leaders? Next, please. I am inviting again to appreciate that the conversation on community, as I've already hinted, is narrow. Most people think community means in the village, in the locality. Please come on board and appreciate that the community may be global, it may be continental, it may be regional, it could be national. The community could be lower local government. The community could be at your village level. The community can be at your household. The community could be in your organization. The definition of community and therefore community transformation must be seen that holistically. Whichever space you occupy, we expect you as a leader to exercise transformative leadership. Now, the global context of leadership, there are so many interesting things. From the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 to the Jomtien Conference on Education for All by the year 2000. People used to think 1989, 2000, that's a long, long time away. No education yet for everybody. To the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN space, very interesting space. The majority members of the United Nations are weak. The power in the United Nations belongs to the P5, permanent 5. They wield real power. You can have the rest of the members taking a decision on something and only one of the permanent members vetoing the decision, as the US has repeatedly done on the subject of Israel and the genocide in Gaza. So we are saying, from this global context, we begin picking ideas to inform leadership for community transformation in whichever space you occupy. The global space sets the framework, and we move on to other dimensions. Did I say uhuru bila nguvu ya kiuchumi ni hewa? I am flashing this one. I like this because it's a summary of the question. Who owns the 115 trillion global economy? The IMF estimates that the world economy is now $115 trillion. But who owns it? Look at the share of the United States, about 25%. And look at the share of China, about 15%. And those are owning the bulk. Could somebody show me where Africa is? My eyes are old. Is there any young person here who can show me where Africa is? Africa is unfortunately among the rest of the world, reduced to a footnote. And that's because you and I have not exercised leadership to transform our people from peasant farming into industrial manufacturers, from hunter-gatherers into digital service providers, from people who remained in primary school to those going to conquer the world in the university and beyond, from those who are doing hairdressing and those riding borders and tailoring. These are pedestrian skills, to those who are supplying skills needed by the digital generation of the 21st century. The challenge is before you and me, and of course people outside here. I flash the next PowerPoint to illustrate a key point. Namely, 5 countries control 50%. 5. You can count them off your fingers. 5 are controlling 50% of the world's economy. And the 5 are USA, China, there's Germany, there's India, Japan. The rest of us are sharing. Even then, we are sharing it inequitably. You still have a few others dominating. The richest 10 countries are much, much richer than the rest of the world. 10. And these are challenges I'm mentioning so that when you go, I would rather you spend a sleepless night discovering what you need to do differently to deliver a different conversation. Why? We have said freedom without economic power is empty. It's useless. You rather feel yourself obliged, Kabalega style, to go and do something. Next one, please. The problem at hand is that in Africa, we have strong men, not strong institutions. Africa is dominated by rulers, not leaders. Public spaces in Africa, as well as social spaces, are dominated by comedians, not transformative leaders. And that's the challenge we must overcome. How I wish we could overcome it in our lifetime. I want to point out that when we study the maps presented by the powerful and mighty across the world, they present the geography of Africa and give the impression, a false impression, that Africa is small. Africa is huge. Within the area of Africa, you can squeeze USA and China, the 2 biggest economies, India, 3rd biggest, Japan, United Kingdom, which colonized many parts of the world, only can be squeezed in Madagascar. So all the major economies can be squeezed in the area called Africa. What is the conclusion of African leaders who are sleeping on the job? Africa tulina potential. The question I have asked, and which I need to put before you, is this: who eats potential? Is there any one of you who has fed on potential in the last 1 week? We all want deliverables. We want food security for ourselves and our community. We want to be able to access quality education. We need quality and dependable health care. We need infrastructure which works, infrastructure of the 21st century. We need livable cities and rural communities. We need spaces that will enable us to assert our rights as citizens. And if you are in government, you need an economy that will raise the tax to GDP ratio from the current 13.6% to a higher level, close to the Asian level, which is about 35%. So even people in government are saying, how do we finance? There's so many programs. Why? We are celebrating potential, not transformation. Now, I flash this one to annoy some people, especially those working the Ministry of Finance and the economy, but also those in kingdoms. It is very, very embarrassing that a continent that has enough geographical space to accommodate USA, China, India, Germany, Brazil, UK, name them, is statistically absent when we come to measure gross domestic product, using infographics and showing your proportionate share of the output of the economy per person. Africa is in the center there. It is statistically absent. With just having biological substances, I want to submit, our position is closely associated with the people who are leading us. They have not done what it takes to transform us into significant citizens. And I'm addressing somebody here, whether you are in church or in business, whether you are in Kabalega Foundation or in the Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, whether you are in your own household or in school, wherever you are, you and I have a role to play to lift ourselves up, to get out of this embarrassing situation. I had some Baganda friends. I studied in Chitovu, among the Baganda, who said they were actually historically Bunyoro. They said, ebikoba byembogo. How do they complete that? Ebikoba byembogo. You have to get ourselves out of the caves, out of the undaches. We have to wake up. And that's why I think I was invited to share with you. Now, I want to share a few more things and close. In the 21st century, we are seeing a revolution that is happening, and I will not spend much time on that. The next one, please. I want to comment briefly on the agential power of Kabalega, Field Marshal Kabalega. We all know, don't we, that Kabalega was head of state. Do we know that? Bunyoro Kitara Empire was a state. Kabalega was the head of state. Kabalega was the chief lawgiver. Kabalega was the chief executive. He was the chief judge. He was a field marshal. He was commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Bunyoro Kitara. Yes or no? In those different capacities, Kabalega was a military strategist. He was a visionary leader. He was a bearer of what in military science we call the common operational picture. Now, what's interesting is that Kabalega had state officials, kingdom officials, who were grounded in the doctrine of mission command. Mission command means that if you are given an assignment, what we call delegated authority, you have the duty to execute orders religiously, orders from above. But as you execute, you give a feedback. What's working, what's not working. And you give guidance to the powers that be on what you think should be done in order for you to deliver services more effectively. Mission command would mean, in your case of parish development model, that if you are in charge of parish development model, You execute and you discover there is no transformation. You discover the 1 million given is bordering on tokenism. You discover that many beneficiaries actually don't get the 1 million. They get something less. And they have seen this. 750 signing awano tuzene million mukulu papula naye tulina ku mitwalo 7 ogitwala oba tuziwa omulala. So many people are signing for less money, and they are signing after spending money on borders, checking up and about. So many are getting around 600,000. So I am saying the doctrine of mission command requires that if you are in charge of interventions like parish development model, you give a feedback as faithfully as possible. That in order for us to transform our community, what we need, I submit, is not money at every parish. What we mean is an arrangement that puts money in strategic institutions like factories, textile mills. When you amass the money of 2 districts from parishes to 1 factory, you are going to create more wealth and transform our people than the trickle downs you are giving each parish. Ebintu tebigana, abantu bebagana. So we have to think outside the box. The idea that some leader somewhere is thinking parish development model can work, and the idea that those executing are not giving a feedback is showing us a leadership vacuum. Because of the agential power of Kabalega, the next one please, Kabalega is able to reclaim a significant part of the empire of Bunyoro Kitara, which stretched from Ituri in the western part to the Bahaya land in northern Tanzania, to Kenya, Kisumu, to northern Uganda, Rukidi. And of course, as we can see, in the 15th century, I was telling my friend, there was no Buganda. I am not saying this because Bugandas are bad. I'm saying this just to remind us of one thing, that Kabalega did not care about your linguistic group, your ethnic identity. All he cared is that you are a Bunyoro. Kabalega did not say you are Muchope, you are Muga here, you are what? Kabalega said, you are my people. Kabalega preached unification of state power, unification of the state. The idea that in unity there is strength. So why are we hearing so many conversations now? Abagungu bakwenda kwechwaho, abachope bakwenda kugenda, abalisa bakwenda kaunte yabo. This is actually misleading our people. The Paluo are our people. These are Kabalega's people. Doholo, Cecilio Guar's place. There is a monument which the kingdom should take interest in. This monument is where Kabalega was arrested. Guess what? Kabalega was with the Kabaka of Buganda and with Semeika Kungulu, who appears to have betrayed the two. And you see, this is the place of our people. So to say northerners are northerners, to miss the point. The rulers of Bunyoro Kitara came from the north. They are our people. But if the rulers of Bunyoro Kitara are rulers of all of this territory, then the rulers of Buganda are also Luo, historically. The rulers of Toro, Luo. Rulers, Raila Odinga, Luo. Uhuru Kenyatta, our grandson. Hello? Am I speaking to somebody? It's okay for me to come off as a preacher. Kubanga mwagana kuja mu kanisa. Yeah, I'm still showing this map. Maybe this is even clearer. So there was a county called Muhwahwa where we have painted Buganda. That Muhwahwa, the Baganda can't pronounce Muhwahwa, they say Muwawa, became the nucleus for Buganda. Buganda means bando, building bandos. So Buganda becomes smarter than Bunyoro Kitara in that the Kabaka of Buganda marries from different clans. And each one of the mothers, each one of the wives, has a chance to supply their son as the next heir to the throne. In Bunyoro Kitara, the Babito will say, we have royal blood, pure. With us, you can only be next if you are one of us. That is where the Baganda went right. By expanding the possibility of the next heir to the throne to come from any of the wives of the king. And the king of Buganda does not have one wife. True or false? Wonderful. Yes, Saba Sajja. Saba Sajja means Saba Kazi as well. Meaning all the wives in Buganda belong to the king. Next one, please. Now, I know there is a bishop here. I shouldn't say much about that. Now, this is a royal stool. And I wanted to give money, but I'm told my time is running out. This royal stool was stolen from us. This is a royal stool of Kabalega, 8-legged, designed by our own specialists, cultural professionals. This was stolen and taken to the museum in the UK. We have been pushing to have these things returned in our research project on archiving at Makerere University. We are told the only thing you can do is to borrow. Look, our wealth, our cultural heritage, you want us to borrow? You stole, you are a thief. This is what the Europeans are telling us. But this is a royal stool signifying the centralization of power under the leadership of Kabalega. I got the next. Kabalega's political doctrine was unity. I've already said this. That it doesn't matter where you come from. So from that perspective, I want to remind especially the young people who may have come that the people of Kabalega include Abanyoro, Abagahya, Abaganda, Abaruli, Basoga, Ituri region people, the Basongora, the Koch people, Chope, Bakidi, Bagungu, Karokarunji people called Banyankole now, and others I don't have time to mention. That was the idea of it doesn't matter whether you are male or female. Where you come from is a non-issue. The issue is, are you ready to work for this kingdom? That spirit of Kabalega was bequeathed to Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere was very critical of the idea that certain people in Tanzania wanted to invoke ethnic identity rather than competence as a basis for organizing society. And Julius Nyerere said, and I quote, katika karne ya 21 mnasema tupande basi la makabila, huu ni ujinga. I don't know who wants to translate for us. Robert. Katika karne ya 21 mnasema tupande basi la makabila, huu ni ujinga. What does it mean? I would save you. That in the 21st century, you are telling us to identify ourselves as Wakamba, Wachaga, Baganda, Bunyoro, Acholi, Luo. He said that is stupidity. What we need is to appreciate. In Tanzania, they said, kila Mtanzania ni ndugu yangu. Every Tanzanian is my brother. So we should be able to say, buli Munyoro wena muntu wange. Kando Munyoro, in a broad sense, that broad empire, all these people who are offshoots of Bunyoro are our people. They are our brothers. They are our sisters. And at the national level, how I wish we can have a leadership which says, kila raia wa Uganda, kila raia wa Uganda ni ndugu yangu. Every Ugandan is my brethren. That way. So that will help our leaders stop dividing us. How I wish we could say we want to build projects that cut across, irrespective of identity. That way, our leaders will stop dividing us. Then we can demand for government that works, for services that matter, in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure, in digital spaces, and the jobs that will create smart living for our people. I was asked to comment briefly on the idea of royal innovations, and I want to mention 2 unique cases. Many young people have seen this, many old people have seen this, but what we don't appreciate is that Bunyoro Kitara moved from the Bronze Age through to the Iron Age. If you are to go with the spears, the shapes and quality. At a time when different parts of the world were struggling with their industrial revolutions, Bunyoro Kitara, around 900 AD, 10 AD, Bunyoro Kitara was already into the spaces of discovering. Now, I want to put it before you. Bunyoro scientists did not go to Makerere University because it never existed. They didn't go to Cambridge because Cambridge never existed in 900 years. Cambridge came later in the 12th century. They didn't go to the university. Now, wait a minute. Who taught our innovators how to discover mineral-rich rocks and how to extract the precious metal to make these kinds of tools? And we don't stop with metals. All of these, making drums and textiles, all of these are symbols of innovation. Who taught our people? And why is it that today's learners need a new curriculum, supposedly competence-based? But this was competence-based. Yes or no? So the new curriculum is not new. Bunyoro practiced it many centuries before it was introduced by Uganda. Thank you very much. Could we see the next one, please? And this is a quote from Stanley Alpan. This is a European who has studied Africa. And I know my colleagues in science will appreciate that when it comes to discussion, you explain. Carbon dating and other research techniques which are used. Please explain, because I have to rush. So what is happening with the scientific research, archival research, is that the evidence is abundantly clear that the innovations of iron ore and bronze that we find in Africa were indigenous. They didn't come from outside. The Bazungu have attempted to tell the world that if there are innovations like kilns, a kiln is a tanuru. The tanuru for melting iron ore has to have a capacity to raise the temperature to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. For your reminder, even if you failed science, water at sea level boils at 100 degrees Celsius. The Bunyoro, without a foreign university degree, without Makerere University, because it was not there, were able to construct kilns that would raise the temperature to over 1,000 degrees Celsius to allow the rock to melt. Then they would separate the molten material and heat it quickly to make the iron implements. And this was a great innovation, which is traceable to about 3,600 before the current era. Now, this is the time when the Egyptians were building the pyramids of Giza, which have become humongous UNESCO products. They're among the wonders of UNESCO. Now, the ecosystem view of science and innovation in Bunyoro appears underappreciated, especially by those studying the new curriculum. Can I put it before us that in Bunyoro Kitara, we had basic science. There is literature now emerging on the origin of mathematics in Bunyoro Kitara. We had mineral prospecting, as I've already hinted, geologists, not trained in Western universities. But that's not all. We also had applied science in iron mining and indigenous kilns. We also had action research, such as vaccination and ritual practice. Can I mention briefly, and I come to the end, the idea of the cesarean section that Bunyoro scientists did in 1879. Now, I want to make a correction. Many people listening to this communication on cesarean section in Bunyoro allege that this was the first cesarean section in Bunyoro. That's not true. The Bunyoro had done this for so many decades, only that we had a problem of not documenting. So this Muzungu called Felkin just happens to be coming, and he finds Bunyoro surgeons in the theater. What shocks him is that in Europe, caesarean sections were deemed to be dangerous, that they were of greatest gravity, only to be performed in the most desperate circumstances. Second, Felkin was shocked that it is only Bunyoro in Africa where the caesarean section was performed and both mother and child were saved. In Europe, if the baby you are expecting is a boy, you kill the mother and save the boy. Why? You need boys to go and fight wars. If the baby is a girl, you kill so that the mother has a chance to produce a boy who will fight wars. Felkin is shocked. Bunyoro are using sanitizers made out of first-class wine fermented with Bunyoro sorghum to produce high alcohol content. These scientists call it ethanol. And this is used to sanitize the body and the tools they are using. And mother and child recover, to the shock of this European expert. If I were you, I would clap for our scientists. They were not sleeping on the job. They were transforming society and serving society. Now, I present this diagram. This diagram is showing you the portrait that Dr. Felkin from Europe did of what was happening in the theater. As you can see, there are lots of artifacts and items of spirituality and worship, because the belief was that science was holistic. So the scientists that conducted the caesarean section had to do some spiritual incantations. They had to utter certain words. Today's locally would say that was pagan. That was the science at that time. That was the understanding. Next one, please. Now, I also want us to know that if you're a scientist, you don't have to have produced a baby, but the Bunyoro were doing caesarean different from the way it's done today, because science has been advancing. Theirs was vertical. Today, I think, I don't have a wife who has had Caesar, because I was taught in Australia that all women can deliver normally. 98% of the women can deliver normally. Today, girls are fooled to believe tosobola kuzaala oli bubi simanyi oli mufunda omwana munene. Lies. I'm going to begin antenatal classes. Most mothers, 98% can deliver normally. But in situations which are desperate, that's how the Caesar was done. Next one, please. Now, I want us to appreciate, those of you who are leaders in the kingdom, this is our intellectual property. This was the surgeon's knife which was used to do the operation in 1879. This property, could somebody read for me? Oh, this property is kept in the Wellcome Historical Museum in the UK. Our innovation, our intellectual property. I am provoking somebody in the kingdom to say, look, can you restore our property? This property belongs here, not in England. They've been making money out of our innovations. So could we invoke the spirit of Kabalega and tell them, we need our property with interest, because they've been making money out of this property. And of course, as we look at this surgeon's knife and the technology our people had, we need to ask the question, how come today's scientists are not doing what these people used to do? What went wrong? Ania tuloga. Let me put it in the language of one of our children. Who bewitched us? How come what we are doing today seems to leave lots of gaps? I've already talked about the holistic nature of healing. And I will say this again because I saw people who serve us by Sito Muruhanga. The healing in tradition of Bunyoro was holistic, comprehensive. You'd have surgery, you'll have physical wellness, dancing and drama, as we've seen the young people. None of them is going to get heart issues or obesity like me. They are fit. You had psychosocial support, sometimes invoking spirits. You had thermotherapy, like in Kibiro. The hot springs are spaces for healing, and some of us don't know that. You had herbology. Herbology, the science of using medicinal herbs, nkomubirizi, oba orwihura. And we know some of these, even those of us who went to school. There are some of these medicinal herbs we rediscovered in the age of COVID-19. My point is simple. Healing in Bunyoro was not compartmentalized. It was holistic. Now, I wanted to make a comment on religion. I think I shouldn't. But the point is that religion was abused by those who came to colonize us. They said they have not seen beggars in Africa. They have not seen thieves. That there is so much wealth, high moral values, that they don't think they would ever conquer Africa unless they break the backbone of Africa. And what was that backbone? Our spiritual and cultural heritage. They said we must tell them that your spirituality and your culture is pagan. That's how we shall colonize Africa. That's why many reverends and bishops and pastors, the moment you tell them you're going to use omubirizi, they say, now that is satanic. The moment you tell them I'm going to Kibiro hot springs, this is science, thermotherapy, using heat to treat ailments, they say you have become satanic. But this is the context in which our people started preaching what they preach us. Again, I will not repeat this. I will leave the PowerPoint behind. The Kibiro hot springs, I'm interesting all of us to find time and go. Kibiro hot springs is really a space for basic science. It is a place for applied science. It is a place where you go, you get not just thermotherapy, it is a space where you can eat fish, which is salty. Fish is very nutritious. You don't have to be male or female or a reverend to eat this fish. So the point is that our people were not sleeping. Can I mention quickly that Kabalega was an institution builder? The system of government that was built by Kabalega was pyramidal. From the king as head of state, commander-in-chief, Field Marshal Kabalega, through Omuhikirwa, down through the Okwiri and Saza chiefs, Gomora chiefs, parish chiefs, sub-parish chiefs, down to Abakuru Bemigongo. This structure was pyramidal, just like the Egyptian structure of power. Can I mention this, which embarrasses us in many, many distinctive ways? That Kabalega had a comprehensive food security strategy at kingdom level, but also household level. How was it significant? You have organic foods. Now, planned kids are just rediscovering the term organic foods, healthy foods. Planned kids, I see some of you. These things existed in the pre-colonial period of Africa. Organic millet, organic milk, organic enswiga, organic dodo, organic beans, organic eggs. Not eggs made in China. Organic foods. I'm surprised. The planned kids are saying we are discovering the health benefits of vegetables. Our people knew this. They knew it. And so Kabalega's role as a leader was to ensure a few things. One, hunting, wild game, royal hunts, royal expeditions to hunt, were used as spaces for animal protein. Today we have an interesting crisis. And I'm saying this especially for the kingdom leaders. Wild animals have bigger per capita availability of land than the Bunyoro. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Wild animals, wherever you have seen Bunyoro, the big map, whether Lake Kimburo or Queen Elizabeth, Kabalega National Park, and all these protected game reserves, the wild animals have more land per animal than our own people. Who said that we cannot review? I'm not saying kill all the animals. I am saying leadership in this space requires that we reduce the size of wild animals. Why? Wild animals are used for tourism. Basically for foreigners. Inviting foreigners to come and see us in our state of nature. while our people are starving is not a wise thing. So I'm challenging the leaders here in the kingdom and in political spaces and in the economy that what we need is to reduce the land acreage for the animals. The rights of wild game cannot be privileged over the human right to life. So I'm inviting us to rethink this. Reduce the size that is given to wild game. And the liberated land shouldn't be given through tokenistic strategies, tiny little plots to each individual. That should be space for commercialized farming that links up to industrial manufacturing. For example, textiles. For example, pharmaceutical products. We grow things and produce things that are high value added to create jobs, to expand the revenue of the state from 13.6% tax share of GDP. That's very embarrassing. Can I quickly add that the concept of household food security under Kabalega revolved around a kitara. The kitara meant two things: the tool of war, but also the store for food. So the store for food, each household had to have granaries. 3 granaries. One for household use. The second was called Omukama's granary. It is yours, but you don't touch it. It is taken to the kingdom to feed the royal officials. The third one was called the chief's granary. Again, it's yours, but you don't touch it until the king declares there's a food shortage. Can I quickly add that Kabalega created underground food stores for the kingdom and for the state and for the people of Bunyoro. Underground food stores. What's embarrassing today, you have graduates of great universities running our country. Who knows where we have fuel stores in this country? Stores of fuel. In case Kenya attacked Uganda for an extended period, in case Tanzania quarreled with us, does anybody know where we have the stores of fuel in this country? Idi Amin had them. They were emptied. Idi Amin, you said he didn't go to school. He was intelligent. May I know, where are the food stores of this country? Does anybody know? They are not there. It's not that you don't know. They are just not there. So we are at the mercy of God. When the soils are good and the rains are good, we get abundant harvest. And guess what? The youth are selling off all the rice to the last grain. The household has no household food security. How are you going to lead people who are not food secure? And can I quickly add, the best way of achieving food security is not to have all of us doing farming. The best way for having food security is to have income security in decent work, in productive activities, not in doing farming, all of us doing farming. That is a wrong approach. So I'm inviting us to appreciate many of these cultural issues and behaviors. And I want to go now to the last, very last. I know I'm seeing some very serious person who is beginning to doze in installments. You know how he's doing it? He closes one eye, then closes the other. He is dozing in installments. So, which is a statement to me as a teacher that I should stop. Please move to the next. I want us to look at the top 6 action points. So you don't say, Mwalimu JK, Mwalimu Julius Kiza. What are those things you want us to do? These are the top action points for reimaging leadership for community transformation. Number 1. And here is a minister for land from Buganda. Now, whether the minister for land is listening, I want all of us to appreciate that land is an asset. But what we need is not just land reform in terms of who owns. We need agrarian reform. Agrarian reform is wider than land reform. It means you want to transform land use into an asset for feeding value-added manufacturing. It's not enough for you to say we grow shea in northern Uganda. It is better to say we grow shea not just for beautifying our skin. We grow shea to feed the pharmaceutical industry. It's not enough to say we grow cassava. It is better to say we grow cassava to feed a factory that manufactures ethanol and biodiesel, so that the rich people of our country stop buying imported diesel and shift to diesel made out of cassava, made out of sugar, made out of bananas. This will inform what we are calling agrarian reform, not just land redistribution. We are saying we must blend land reform with agrarian reform. The aim is to empower our people, to enrich our citizens, and to expand the revenue base of the state so that we get richer. We fund infrastructure and other programs. That's number one. Number two, unity. Cindy has been very popular in promoting tuko pamoja. Unity. We are one people. Don't be deceived by anyone. And so the idea of creating many new districts every other campaign season is misleading us. You are trivializing us. You are increasing the cost of public administration. What we need is actually to re-amalgamate the districts and create effective units of government. Creating districts is a cost. We need more hospitals. We need more schools, more BT-VET institutions, not more districts, not more cows. We can actually use the existing ones more efficiently. Number three, the resurrection of Ubuntu. Barangambaki. Banangambachi. Gabawulidde nti mwana wa bishop yakoze kino. The idea that we need to reclaim our humanness as we serve others is an important action point we should press. Number four, no border borders. We are driving our youth to sell assets like land to buy a border, which is mobile wealth. It is bringing quick gains, but we are making a huge mistake. The mistake is that you have the most capable, youthful generation doing a lazy man's job. Riding a border is a lazy man's job. That's where we're locking up our youth. They are dispossessing themselves of property to buy motorcycles. That's a huge mistake. But let me quickly add. Borders came into our economy as gap fillers because we had killed public transport. When we killed public buses and railways, the borders came in as gap fillers because taxis, another nuisance, could not fill the gap. Now, in Kampala, every day, you can predict with mathematical exactness that somebody will break their spine in Kampala every day. True or false? Ania tuloga. Why wouldn't we revive the bus system and the railway system? And wider roads, and reskill. I'm not saying kill or imprison motorcycle riders. I am saying we can train them in the digital skills, in TVET skills for the 21st century, and redeploy them into more productive sectors, not motorcycles. Thank you for appreciating. Number 5, industrial manufacturing. Can we have the University of Bunyoro being a partner in the pursuit of industrial manufacturing in Bunyoro and the rest of the country, the rest of the region? Value-added manufacturing is the space we need to occupy. Finally, I am proposing that we press the button called human rights-based approach to development. We need to address the gender agenda. We need to address the question of patriarchal norms that entrench alpha male power in our society and women's oppression. These are things you can begin acting on with effect from midnight to night, because leadership operates in all spaces, whether they are political or technocratic, whether they are sacred or secular, whether it is in your household or the wider community outside. Whether you are male or female, you can be a leader in the space you occupy. I thank you very much for listening to me.
Irirwe muta abanyoro n'abanyorokati. Chali munda mungaruke munkabalire kya musana. Muramutakalire kya musana ikaina shuwa yu ekyarwe bagyo kiroho. Mwirirwe muta abanyoro n'abanyorokati. Yeah, thank you so very much. I was waiting for my car mate to come back. I'm so honored. Thank you so very much. Once again, Mumutero Mungaro, Professor, first stop there. The person in the control room, this gentleman, who for me today is an equivalent of Danny Roderick, Nkumanya Novamanyabo, Branko Milanovic, Elena Ostrom, a lady though, Francis Fukuyama, Jeffrey Sachs. A celeb or political economy. The first time I listened to him, I was a university student. And I think Omugenzi Shem Byakagaba had organized a function. We were at Sheraton Hotel. I was swept off my feet. I couldn't believe we've got such brains. I'm so honored that we come from the same county or village, Kitoba. DJ, play Bunyoro Nihonduga as he comes here. The audience may have a chance to ask you a question. I don't know whether people from Kitoba know how to dance. So, yes. And DJ, my panelists will come here in style. We are international here. We have people from Buganda. But we are not international. We are Kitara-raised. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite on stage our panelist, Omunyorokati Nancy Kalembe, 2021 presidential election, and she was the only female candidate then. Yeah. And I'm also honored, we went to school together. She's my OG from Mariam High School in Kampala, Kisasi to be exact. She has a degree in population studies. She's a population scientist. And I think as a population scientist and a politician, issues of culture and development are so close to her. You may be seated, Nancy and Professor. We are excited to hear from you. As an administrator and a community development practitioner, Innocent is passionate about digital advocacy and leadership that is rooted in community development. Innocent is an alumnus of Kyambogo University and Islamic University of Uganda, and he holds various different leadership training programs. He has carried out various leadership training programs. Thank you so much, Kabalega Foundation, for putting together all these important people. This is Dr. Leonard Nkalubo. From your experience, how can cultural kingdoms such as Buganda and Bunyoro, Kitara, play a more active role in modern governance without compromising their heritage?
I'm very honored and privileged to be here today with everybody in Hoima. I bring, first and most importantly, greetings from Sabasaja Buganda, Ronald Mwendam Tebi Okubiri, who celebrates the legacy of Kabalega and wished us fruitful deliberations, which we already had from Professor Kiza. I also bring greetings from the Katikiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Maiga, who, but for official duty today, would have been here with us, again in expression of solidarity and to celebrate the legacy of Omukama Kabalega. On a personal note, I'm the son of Andrew Frederick Mpanga, grandson of Yafesi Lubwama, great-grandson of Noah Nasamba. Noah Nasamba was the Sembwa, a chieftaincy in Busiro, and served under Mwanga loyally to the point that he went with Mwanga to serve and fight against colonialism, and was separated from Mwanga after Mwanga had united with Kabalega. So to that extent, I too have lineage that fought with Kabalega against the oncoming onslaught of global imperialism. And when we celebrate Mwanga, Kabalega and Mwanga as icons in the anti-colonial struggle. We don't do that to bring them up as relics of the past, which is where I'll come in with the answer to the question. The kingdoms we serve, Bunyoro, Kitara, Owakabakawa, Uganda, Nkore, Toro, Rwanda, all these kingdoms actually still exist. They're living. They live in us. They are, as Professor was saying, expressions of our community. In the present setting, therefore, if we're to make the great leap forward that Professor Kiza was talking about, a leap forward that entails innovation, the use of technology, the use of arts, language, all manner of aspects of culture, which again, a little bit like community, have been narrowed down. Culture is narrowed down to only mean music, dance, drama, and arts. Yet in fact, culture includes philosophy, includes spirituality, it includes technology. If we're to do that and get the great leap forward that we want, the transformation that we want for our people, we have to look to our past. If you think about how you jump, we have a problem. I think we have to switch off one mic. If we are to make the great leap forward, I was saying, we have to step back. Not to move backward, but we have to take a step back in Lugando kusinzira in order to get the momentum to jump into over the gap and into the future that we're looking at. And the kingdoms, in my view, do not have to sacrifice their culture in order to make the leap forward. There's no dichotomy in my mind, and there shouldn't be a dichotomy between culture, innovation, technology. Culture is the compass that we use to guide us on what is useful and valuable for us. It is the compass that we use, the weighing scale that we use to understand what value a particular innovation or new technology or new way of doing things is to us as a people. And to my mind, not everything that is new is good or useful. So how do you judge what is new or useful? You judge the mores, the norms, the societal yardstick which the kingdom of Bunyoro, of Buganda, our native tradition gives us. Yeah. So I don't think that there'd be a problem in guiding innovation and keeping culture. Those two are actually part of the same thing.
What role emerging technology intelligence play in community transformation, especially in rural or under-resourced areas? Do they need it?
Okay, thank you, the moderator. I'm happy to be here. I grew up from here. I think most of you have been here for long. You should have heard of Charles Nkalubo. He was a policeman who was here. He was a DPC. He retired, but we come from Kibale, but we lived here for some time. And I read from here. I did my O-level at Kitara. I did my A-level at Kabalega. So really, I'm here. I'm a person born from here. I'm a great mathematician. My first degree was in mathematics Z, 311 mathematics. And then did my master's and PhD in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So now, really coming here, it was, I've been reading, I've been following, I followed through what the professor was talking about. The professor is a great speaker. We have engaged him in so many of our platforms. And for me to come here specifically for this lecture, my intention or I was looking at ingredients or attributes of how we can put in technology, science and technology, into what actually can promote and bring culture, knowledge, and innovation together to transform the community. Now, when I look at the current trends in Bunyoro, mainly looking at Hoima city or Hoima district as, for example, you have like 4 or 5 trending things that are trending, things that are current, top things that you can talk about. You have Bunyoro University, you have the oil and gas industry where you have the pipeline, they are talking about the refinery, you have the Hoima city, the city that is coming on, you have various things that are coming up to make sure that Bunyoro comes up as it is. But from all the things they have spoken about today, I know we have bishops here, I saw the Vicar General is there. Prophet Daniel, if you read Daniel chapter 12, he talks about, it says that towards the end, some of you believe there is no end, but I just wanted to bring it to you. He says that knowledge will increase. When they say knowledge will increase, they mean that towards these training days which are coming on, we are going to have a lot of increase in knowledge. Some of the things which we are doing in artificial intelligence, which if I told you now, you would say maybe the man is not even, maybe he is not a believer. But I want to encourage you and tell you, in the next 5 to 10 years from now, the way how things are being done now is not the way how they will be done. Things are going to change in banking, in farming, travel, in hotel management and reservation, teaching. Many things will change. So currently as we move, I want to encourage you, members, students who are here, we saw there were some secondary students who are here. Please, as you grow, as you come to grow, get involved into technology. Bunyoro University curriculum is out. And actually, the curriculum mainly is talking about earth sciences. In one of those, in the curriculum, we have data science, there is artificial intelligence there is engineering that is there, you have medicine, forestry, and others. They are promoting science. I want to encourage you today, if Kabalega was here, I have been reading the book by Isaac Kalembe, the very current book about Kabalega. He talks about the reforms which Kabalega brought about, which he brought towards when he was ruling his kingdom. He was a military general. Some of the aspects, if Kabalega was to be here, some of the best weapons he would use now are those weapons which we saw maybe like Israel fighting Iran. Most of you, all of you actually have smartphones. Can I tell you that I have software here? If I had wanted, I could read all your messages here. The Pegasus software. Yes, I'm telling you. If I really intended, if it was my intention to read all what you are chatting and what you are doing on your smartphone, I can do it. You see? But that's not what my main point of telling you is that as we are moving now, things are going to change. You have heard of the robot wife, Elon Musk. I know religious people are here. As we are trending, I know most of you keep trapping your wives and spouses for whether they are cheating or not. As we are going, things, it's going to be an either thing. We get your husband or wife, we get traits or aspects within your wife. Maybe there could be clips on the eyes, there could be gestures. Then we model those gestures, we simulate them, and we build a model, and then you put that model into an application and put it maybe on your home TV. So when your husband goes out, don't care about him. When he comes, he looks through the TV, and then the model, which is on the TV, will tell you what he has been doing. You will see everything he has been doing on the screen in your home.
Now,
yes. So, but anyway, to close.
That's one question.
Yes, please.
Isn't AI now going to destroy you?
No. AI is not going to destroy you, because now, what we are doing, even from America, the current trends which are moving now is looking at the law. If we look, some of you saw Pope Francis sometime back in the Vatican. There were images and videos which they were playing around. Even now, currently, people can, using ChatGPT, you can create pictures, movies, things which are not real, and then you post them, maybe like on WhatsApp. You know, WhatsApp is not a header protocol like as you have X or emails, where you can know maybe you have somebody who has sent. It's just an open platform without having protocols for headers. So now, like WhatsApp, you can share anything you want. But now the whole thing is, as I close, is as we are moving now towards developing, towards our culture, towards our knowledge, and maybe the things we want to innovate or to be creative. Let's be in science. Science is important. Let's get to know, like, members, we have students in Chambogo who have been developing applications on Microsoft, on Google. They do these things in their homes. Then they post some of those solutions online to the servers in America, and then they are paid money. So even if you are here in Bunyoro, even if you are here in Hoima, even if you are here doing your work, be innovative. Use ICT. ICT is very important. You can develop your work, even in engineering. So as we trend, my participation of coming here mainly was to address areas of technology, areas of AI. We have been left for a long time in these areas. So members, as we struggle, as we move, I know if Kabalega was here, he would have used the Pegasus software. That software was used by the Israelis to follow all what the Iranians, in the first day when Israel attacked Iran, in the very first day, they destroyed generals, they destroyed the scientists using this software. Even other things like planes and the current technologies which are moving on between various places. So we need to move in technology. Let's develop. Let's have ICT centers here in the industrial parks that are developing within the region. Let's have technology at heart. Let me ask as I close. I know everybody has a phone, a smartphone. If I can get all these phones and collect them here, and I say nobody is moving with his smartphone, how many people will get out of this room? Be honest. How many? I get your smartphone here. The money is there, the radio is there, the research tool is there, the calculator is there. Everything is now on the smartphone. And you know the current smartphone that is going to come? How small it is? Maybe I'll give it to you later when other person has spoken.
I want to say that I did enjoy Prof. He was my, should I select, a trainer in 2021 under the program for young politicians in Africa after my elections. So it was part of mentorship. And I am also a beneficiary of better community transformation schemes. So my father came from Chigezi, migrated here, but he came through a settlement scheme by government. That is in Bunyoro, and that was Masindi. So my father was given an opportunity to have land. So when Prof was talking about how can animals have more land than humans, it was coming into my head. So my father was given an opportunity to own land, to cultivate and develop. But also he was not alone. They were collecting different young people at that time. So unfortunately, he died early. And I can proudly say that I have associated here. I am now a Bunyoro. I don't even think about. And about home, because I even don't know what's there. But putting that aside, Doctor has asked what are some of the barriers affecting young people participate in leadership. I want to give just an experience. When I finished my undergraduate in 2016, I spent 1 year in Kampala trying to see how can I beat the waves and maybe get opportunities. When I was finishing a year, I realized I was a member of the Kitara Students Association at Chambogo University. I mobilized the colleagues and I was like, we need to go back home and create an impact. Guys, you're like innocent, it is very tough. Where are you going to start from? So we formed an umbrella of ex-Kitara students because we could no longer fit into the Kitara students. So we went back home, started doing community work. Go to schools, do this, do the other. So that gave us an opportunity of being exposed to duty bearers, stakeholders. People started knowing our potentials, our capacities. So a group of 10, we remained 4. After 2 years, 2 of my colleagues were getting jobs locally in a better institution. We remained 2. When that road was ongoing, the KK road, my colleague got an opportunity in that company, the CCC. How? Because of exposure. So I remained alone. I kept on taking on these works in communities. And these guys would support me. They would say, like, we shall pay rent. Now for us, we have been able to get these opportunities. And they would support me in capacity, to support me in strengthening my skills in terms of writing, reporting. And that's how I said I have to enroll for my master's at IUIU. So when I enrolled, we were going into COVID. Through COVID, I said, I have been in these communities. I should attempt to contest for Member of Parliament. Guys are like, we shall support you. So I went to contest, but I was even not sure of how I would sustain my campaigns. But we went through. The party supported me with initial fees. I went through the election. I had a lot of frustrations. When I finished, I was taken by the party for the leadership training under Piper. I think in this region we should be very few who have gone through that training. When I completed, I came back. I was given an opportunity now to serve at Kabalega College Masina as a Dean of Students. What does that experience tell you, communicate or inform? One, we have institutions that are still so resistant to accommodate young people, to give them an opportunity to grow, to understand, and use such spaces to exploit their potentials. Secondly, we are talking about resources in our communities. We don't have money to buy ourselves out from our electorates. But who has created this mess? These are our leaders. These are people who are like our godfathers, who keep giving us motivation that you can do it, you can do it. But if one person moves out here and says, I'm going to contest for the position of mayor or councillor, you'll be thinking about your pocket. But also we have not been taught servant leadership. Young people to understand that we can serve beyond titles that we have. But also, going forward, we have seen this dominance of people that now, it is, Prof was talking about the patriarchal system, where a young person, if he comes out to say, I want to contest for something, they start looking at him as being young. They start looking at him, what kind of, your status. When I was going to contest for MP, the priest called me and said, Innocent, you haven't married. I was very, very bold to ask the priest, in the nomination forms, there is no clause that says, present your wife. Yes. And the priest was like, okay, I've given you blessings. So there are norms that have really caught us backward. Now, Cass is one of our founders, one of our donors here. I come from a center-right party. Political parties and other institutions should be at the center of training, deploying, but also recruiting young people. When you train, where do you deploy them? Should we only wait for them to contest? No. But also, what do we teach? Today, I want to use an example of the Democratic Party. It has one of the biggest numbers of politicians who have gone to serve different political parties, irrespective of what they are doing. But the question is, what are we trained for? Yes, what do we stand for? So systematically, we have been excluded as young people. Resources are not there. Today, young people are surviving. And if we don't address that thing, surviving, look at who is managing campaigns, who is speaking on loudspeakers, who are those people putting on T-shirts for politicians.
There is an increasing number of women who want to participate in politics or the political spaces, what do you think they can borrow from traditional values as they opt for these positions of power?
I would like to mention something about my heritage. My name is Nancy Kalembe Linda, daughter of George Patrick Bagea. I'm the daughter of the Most High God, and I do believe in God, and I love my culture. I'm a daughter of Busoga. As I mentioned, George Patrick Bagea, the late, was my father, and I'm a granddaughter of Bunyoro. This is my first time to come to Bunyoro, Kitara Kingdom. And as I was traveling last night, I felt like this was a monumental journey for me. It felt like if there was an entity who was writing the story of the man who left Bunyoro, came to Busoga, and now a daughter was coming back home many generations later, I felt like it was a big spiritual moment for me. So I thank you for having me here. I'm very, very honored to be here. She asked a question why I wasn't on the ballot paper this time. As you've already heard and known about what's going on with our Electoral Commission, unfortunately, corruption, without people seeing the bigger picture, can affect people's destinies, nations' destinies, and affect our continent and our planet. Because many people are very myopic, and they think about what is going to happen for me today. So in my case, this time round, I'm a former presidential candidate from 2021, but for 2025, 2026, I'm a former presidential aspirant, because as I started the process, a few individuals in Electoral Commission wanted personal gain, and they requested for bribe. And I told them that's not my style. I'd rather miss out on this than taint my reputation with, even if you asked me for 1,000 shillings, as long as it's a bribe, I will not pay it. And that is what I stand for. You asked that what should women look at, especially now that there are more women aspiring for high positions in our nation, continental level and globally, and what should they borrow from our culture? That question gets me thinking about our mothers and our grandmothers, the African woman. When someone asks you the symbol of dignity, I see a picture of an African woman. The African woman embodied dignity. She was the ideal of what society should aspire to be. Lately, political leadership has become something disgraceful, to the extent that the women in leadership spaces have forgotten who they are. As African women, we're supposed to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, carry ourselves a certain way, have certain values like integrity. A mother is not supposed to lie. A mother is not supposed to cut corners, because then you'll be destroying generations to come. And culturally, I remember we were told a girl doesn't sit like that, a girl doesn't talk like that, a girl doesn't stand like that. Culturally, we had institutionalized character development. The Western culture has early childhood care. In Africa, we had early childhood care, which was more holistic. It wasn't about reading, writing, and arithmetic. It was about everything. The way you carried yourself, the way you understood things, your world view. And these, I think, should be things that women aspiring for political leadership should borrow from culture. and not forget, even when we step into these spaces like I did, I'm running for presidency, a place that is predominantly and has been known to be a man's space. That shouldn't make me lose my femininity because I am trying to be like the men. I intentionally dressed the way I did today because I knew I was on a panel of men only. They were probably going to wear suits, and I needed to distinguish myself as a woman. But also to give respect to all my grandparents that I sit before, because for me to come here, I've come to visit my grandparents, and that is why I'm dressed this way. The world we live in has racism, it has tribalism, we have ageism, as he was mentioning, we have sexism, and we have something else that bothers me a lot, called feminism. The world assumes that when you're a strong woman, you're a feminist. And I've always rejected that theory. Why? Being a strong woman means, especially if you're an African woman, it means you're a nurturer. You're a person who's supposed to lift up the weak and strengthen society. And why we should borrow the way our grandmothers and mothers behaved in African culture. Mothers raised both boys and girls and strengthened both children. The feminism that the women today have embraced, especially those who are going into leadership, I would give this example. If you have children in your home, and you take on maybe street children who are starving and malnourished, does that mean you start starving the children you had in the home so that the children that you brought from outside start looking better? No, you feed both of them. Yes, certain aspects of our cultures ignored the girl child and built what Professor called the alpha male. But as we lift up the dignity of women, we must remember balance, because our African cultures had balance. And while we are lifting up the girl child, we should be very careful not to destroy, not to be myopic, so that we can only lift up the girl child and say, this one is strong. But we should not be myopic and destroy the future generations, because a world without strong men is a world that is heading for disaster. And I would like to mention that only in Africa do women of the ages worked very hard to cover both their male children and female children. And it is in Africa that mothers is strong boys. African women were very strong. And the evidence we have for that is we are the only people on earth who raised very strong men. African men are very strong lions, and they were raised, birthed, and nurtured at African mothers' laps. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so very much. Owekitini Sampanga. Professor said Africa, when he was showing up those interesting maps, some of them actually annoy you, that's where we are, that we are stopping at potential. For you, what does community transformation mean, and who should lead that community transformation, and who should lead it? Who should lead it?
It should be led by leaders across several sectors. There's certainly room for political leaders. There are roles that must be played by people who are in partisan politics, who are elected and have a mandate on that front. There are people who must lead it in the social space. Those could be teachers, they could be community leaders in religion. There is room for the native institutions that you call cultural institutions. I call them native institutions. The native institutions still have the legitimacy and reach in ways in which sometimes political leaders can't. So if I may give the examples from the Kingdom of Buganda. Coffee growing. Coffee growing is about economic empowerment. If you are poor, there are very many things that you really cannot engage in meaningfully. How do you get people at a household level to be producing? One of the easy ways is growing coffee, a perennial crop. So Mwanyi Tedimba effort, which has been running since 2016, has driven up coffee production in Buganda by about 50 to 60%, and has driven household incomes in particular areas, especially Wuddu, in Chagwe, certain areas where the coffee production uptake has gone up. The kingdom led, working with the former UCDA and others, but the kingdom can help in those areas. In vaccination, it's also on record when the Kabaka encouraged people to vaccinate their children for polio and other immunizable diseases in the late 90s. That really drove up the numbers. USAID and Ministry of Health have those numbers, and I don't have them at my fingertips. The Kabaka being one of the key drivers and agents of the anti-HIV AIDS effort in Buganda, Uganda, and Africa with UNAIDS, has also demonstrably held down or driven down AIDS prevalence, HIV prevalence. So social transformation can be driven, community transformation can be driven by many leaders.
At what AI can do, as well as anxious. If I'm going to go back home, my husband asks me to look through something, then he will see what happened. I'm a good girl, but I wouldn't want him to see. But anyway, how can we ensure that innovation does not erode cultural identity, but instead strengthen it? You know, there are lots of things that are happening. I will give you an example of TikTok. Your students are inventing. There's no one moderating what they are trying to post. People have left jobs to go and become YouTubers. They are putting all sorts of content on YouTube. There's no one moderating. You can't even, there's no one to even come and hold them. Now is Uganda talking, you can't do this. How do we protect from this AI?
The question is very clear that AI is coming on. We have our culture here. The way how she's dressed, she told you already. She came to see her grandparents. I'm one of them, but you can see. Anyway, but the culture which we have here, and the development of technology. For example, let me tell you here, just here in Bunyoro where we are, in Hoima here, we have a problem of the invasion. We have been invaded. For example, the airport was developed by the British. The roads are being done by the Chinese. I think the refinery is going to be done by the French. And we have a series of people coming in here. When we have our own, the language, our empako, kneeling down when we are greeting, our organic foods, as the professor was telling us. But now, smartphones have come in, AI has come in, YouTubers have come in. I think they even introduced, is it there's the media group they introduced here. Were they called the TikTokers something? How can we ensure that, first of all, we the parents, we are the ones who have a problem. A child, even me, even myself, I'm not out of it. You go home, and like, you know, our smartphones, we have games. When you reach home, the child wants to drive, maybe bike, they want to drive, they want even to see wars. We have DSTV in the home, Nickelodeon, things like Cartoon Networks and so on. So, like for DSTV, my answer to this is from DSTV. DSTV has got a parental guide, 13 years, PG, violence, things like nudity, restrictions and violence. So there are some restrictions. We as parents, we must restrict our children from using these things. But even then, now a child has gone to the university, he's studying, he's beyond 18, he can go to baiting, he can, I think we have now to, that's how the issue of spirituality has to come in. Religious leaders. When children come home and they don't go to church, they don't go to mosques, even the cultural leaders, leave alone the spiritual leaders. Because these gadgets have come, artificial intelligence has come, there is no how you're going to leave it out. It has come, it's going to influence us, the way how we do our work. I told you in the next 10 years. Remember, let me tell you people who are using the bank. You remember like in 15 years back, nobody had computers. If you wanted to check on your balance, they had these books. What they called passbooks. They go and check in the deck of your book and they say, this here is your book. Here you, even when you make a transaction, they sign, but now everything is computerized. We are using mobile Oracle-based software for running bank accounts. You see, I worked in Uganda Commercial Bank and Stanbic. So I've been working in banking systems. Oracle systems have changed all this. So as a way of addressing that point of how we can fight the modernization of our culture, we have to have, we as parents, we must put in regulations to our children. If a child is beyond some age, stop giving them, you have all the controls. You have the passwords, you have the biometrics, how you can control your phone, but because the child keeps on crying, and let me tell you this, I don't know whether you have seen some movies or some, maybe we shall share with time. The girls, be careful about these girls whom you are giving smartphones. A girl sits in her home, and we know we have big homes. She has a home where she's staying, her bedroom, and you as a father or the mother, you can't go there to see what, you say, those are rights. I can't go to see what my girl is doing. My dog, do you know what these girls are doing? There are these things, I think you know video calls. You know video calls? When your child, the girl is on WhatsApp, you can't go into her bedroom to see what she's doing because of privacy and because of children's rights. They go and do things that and they display these things into the whole network. They are using video phones, sharing things that you can't imagine. So members, the way how we can fight our culture with all these trending things, let's be specific, let's be controlled, and let's bring in the issue of spirituality. Let children go to church. Church leaders are addressing these things. Let's tell children about sin. The wages of sin is death. Things concerning, yes, I'm telling you. You can say we can't talk about it. Yes, you have to warn these children about spirituality, how you can be godly. The cultures, we have spoiled all our cultures here. Things which we used to do when we were still young, the oral stories which we used to discuss on the fire, we can't discuss these things. Children are used on digital. Then finally, the parliament, the laws governing the way how we use this AI. The laws are still so small. The ICT crime acts and so on, we need to have more strong laws controlling how children use these gadgets. Even we as parents, the way how we control the gadgets towards our home. So we need parliament to come in, and even artificial intelligence. Outside there, the ethical considerations of artificial intelligence have been brought into the law. Develop a law whereby you restrict people from using gadgets, from using artificial intelligence. And also another thing is about, the government can come in, but still, you know, all these gadgets came around to stop censorship of news, censorship of, because people are abusing human rights. You know what happened in the Middle East or the Arab Spring, whereby social media was used to destroy governments because people are controlling things. So it's still something we have to discuss. Something we have to discuss, but comes back to our parents. We have to control our children. Spirituality has to come in. Our culture has to come in. Then we shall overcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ankalbo. I won't repeat anything. If the spirit of Kabalega got reincarnated in you tonight, I'm sure that's what Professor wanted all of us to get, and you are the Kabalega. Give us 5 things you would do. Kabalega, in his true sense, living today, and you're the Kabalega.
When Dr. Leonard was speaking, I was asking myself, who is there for us as young people? And we are there for who? But like you've said, if the spirit of Kabalega reincarnated, one, today when you look at Bunyoro sub-region, for example, out of the 2.7 million people, you have 1.4 million who are between the ages of 0 to 17 years. That should tell you what should be done first. But also, we are going in an election, and we have out of the 1.4 million, we have around 600 young people, that's between 18 and 30, who are going to cast their votes. Now, today the region lives like at the peripheries. We are in an emerging economy of oil, but what are our people benefiting? We need to look at the potentials of our young people. How do we improve them? How do we position them? When we look at hotels coming up in the region, roads, when you look at the tons of equipment coming in this sub-region, the question would be, where are our young people? Are we spectators? Are we onlookers? Are we commentators? That's what should be coming into our heads. Today we have a lot of young people innovating, using digital technology to communicate. But where is the innovation? Where are the innovations that communicate our heritage, our culture? Tuko pamoja creates life, brings our culture out, brings our tradition. Prof talked about Ikitara. When he was talking about Ikitara, I looked at a Facebook. An Ikitara where young people can interact, communicate, but rooted in our local language here. Can we support innovations that young people from this sub-region can undertake? Kabalega Foundation is an example. We need to leave it. Today it has embraced tech, everything is being done in a technological way, but bring out the life. So, our elders in the kingdom, when you look at our elders from the kingdom who speak at our local functions, I am sorry to say, if there is a kingdom official here, some of them look a little bit miserable. How will you inspire other young people who would be interested in taking over the heritage, the culture? Prof was talking about the misusing of religion. I think we also need to rebrand our tradition. Our local leaders should look like people who are growing, who are going forward. If a local chief stands to speak, we should not look at him in a torn shoe. Let him be inspiring. And I think the kingdom should work on the welfare of these local chiefs, because they are continuity, so that even our young people are able to live through this place. Then the other thing is, who is mentoring young people? We have talked about Kabalega being an icon of resistance, resisting foreign domination, an industrious man, an institutional creator. for us as a sub-region, what is creating us? What is supporting us? I am glad that today we are launching the Kabalega Leadership Institute of Leadership and forgetting the other name. But this is an opportunity for us because we can't grow only one-sided. We need to be mentored in terms of understanding the concepts of leadership, understanding the economy, understanding our history, where we want to go. We can't live in space. So we need institutions that understand our young people and that are ready to transform our young people. We need spaces that are going to speak tangibly. We have seen the kingdom announce campaigns and programs for skilling young people. But today, if you look at those people who have been skilled in, I hear 3G, 4G, and 5G welding programs, where are they? So we need to be part and parcel of the service industry. But we need institutions that are going to speak for us. We need institutions that are going to advocate for us and translate. We don't want to see a stadium here and we just come to be people who are going to be watching football. We should be having people who are trained in sports management. We should be looking at the leisure and hospitality industry today. Do we have experts there? How many managers are from here and are managing these hotels that are coming up?
Thank you so very much. What innovative ways can you advise young women and even young people to take? Because the youth, minority, yet majority population-wise, the women, majority, yet minority. What innovative ways can we employ?
First of all, I'd like to console you and tell you shouldn't be sad. Why? The Baganda say, "Ahugoba yakulage kubo." Very many times, when things are smooth, we get complacent. And sometimes when the road becomes harder, whoever has made the road harder for you, they do this unknowingly, but they actually sharpen and strengthen you and make you more resilient. You can't say, I want to learn to be resilient, and then you're in a smooth place. No. Resilience comes from places that require you to develop resilience. So whatever setback I see, whatever happens to me in life, I have a saying, when life hands me lemons, I make lemonade and I make it very expensive so that I can go back home and bank my money. Anyway, about women being the majority demographically and minority when it comes to spaces of leadership, that has been unfortunately a trend that picked up at some point and then remained that way. We have even forgotten that African women used to be warriors. When you look at the African traditional setting, the economic engine of the home was actually the women, because we were the majority number, so we were the ones that used to work the land, that used to produce the food, that used to not only sustain the home, but bring in income for the home. And now women are forgotten and ask for sente za kameza, not realizing that we are betraying our ancestors by being beggarly instead of being the work engine, the economic engine of the home. We need, first and foremost, to be reminded. We need to remember who we are. We have lost our identity and we cannot be innovative. Professor talked about a number of things about who we are. We can't forget who we are and then think that we are going to reinvent ourselves or be innovative in any way. So, look at how women work together, even in our current parliament. There is a spirit of divide and rule among women. Women will either back their husbands or whoever their husband tells them to back, or they're busy in catfights. Women in parliament, instead of supporting one another, they're in parliament, as you saw recently in the SEC elections in NRM. It was a very unfortunate and absurd image. I was thinking I was watching a horror movie because we saw women tearing each other up instead of building and supporting one another. The innovation for women right now, before we even get to the technological advancement of how we can use the technology around us to put us out there, women tend to be shy, and I tell people all the time that I'm very shy, by the way, and they don't believe it just because I'm up here. And one of the things that I like to look at when I'm looking at Uganda's leadership, it is not coincidence that particular daughters or grandchildren of Bunyoro have been at the helm of leadership in this country. When we talk about Dr. Speciosa Wandera Kazibwe, she's a granddaughter. Honorable Kadaga, she's a granddaughter. The first female young lady to run for presidency, Charlie, was a granddaughter of Bunyoro, and so am I. So if you see the trend, innovation that started in Bunyoro can spread to the rest of the country by first and foremost remembering who we are before we go to the technological advancements of how we can work together using, connecting each other through AI, WhatsApp, and all these social media platforms. We need to create spaces where women can be seen by what videos we make, instead of making videos that degenerate who we are, but build videos that can carry us. Women talking about issues, discussing issues in our society. That is a very good place to start.
Now, my comment here is grappled with the challenge of Africa's education, especially modern education, for its utter disregard of indigenous knowledge potentials, worthy contributors and foundations of modern or postmodern education. And one of the biggest casualty of that phenomenon is culture. In our education system, culture has been thrown through the window. I'll give an example. There is a project that is looming, going to take place here in Bunyoro, Bunyoro University. And what is on the agenda is science and technology. There's no culture. How can we be able to have our culture strengthened through the education system? Because we know that is where our society is being trained. If these young people are not given foundation of our cultures, then we are a dying society. I want to end with a quote. This quote was by an Austrian composer called Gustav Mahler. Gustav Mahler said that traditions is not the worship of ashes, but rather the preservation of fire. When people do traditional things, we are branded as backward. When my sister Kalembe dresses up like that, they will say that you're out of style, madam. But that is what we have followed, and somehow we are blindly accept them and have them into our system. How can we get them back into our education system so that we can understand that our tradition is the fire that will take us forward? Thank you.
Because today we have come to discover that the only way to excel or reach our goals, it is venturing into business. 2, how can the young generation tap into the business world, yet the business world requires enough capital, but most of us are down on the grass? Lastly, industrial age is done. Information age has come. We are only left with 74 years to summarize information age. What can we do in these remaining 74 years to make sure that we are okay for the next generation? Thank you.
Just provide a brief context about something here. I recently came up with a framework document about how we can leverage technology in Bunyoro Kingdom to preserve both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. I'm so much intrigued by how technology can be used, and professionally, I'm a software engineer. So, this document explores approaches like 3D scanning, digital archiving, and immersive technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality, and also AI for language and oral history preservation. It also emphasizes community ownership and ethical data governances. So, with today's theme on culture, knowledge, and innovation for community transformation, my question is, how can leaders practically champion or be enablers of such ideas and innovation in such a community?
Thank you.
I'm Robert Wagonza, representing Bank of Uganda, and Bank of Uganda is one of the sponsors of this very important engagement. We supported with 10 million. Chair, I am rising on the issue of money, in line with our theme, which is culture, knowledge, and innovation. And at Bank of Uganda, our mission is very clear: to promote price stability and a sound financial system in support of socio-economic transformation in Uganda. And I'm glad that the speakers have been emphasizing the issue of transformation, because that is very key. But at Bank of Uganda, we've observed that the cost of printing money has become so high, probably because of the different cultural practices. That when someone gets money, because you want to hide it, you squeeze it as much as you can, and the lifespan of this money is reduced. For the ladies, and apologies, but we've observed that some ladies still keep the money in the bras, and with the sweat and everything, the lifespan of this money is affected. Chair, we still have practices of people digging holes and bury the money there, because we are keeping the money there to keep it safe, away from the thieves, and the lifespan of this money is affected. And we spend a lot of money actually to print money, because the money is not printed here in Uganda. Madam Chair, at the Bank of Uganda, this affects what we do, more especially when we are in the area of promoting financial inclusion to increase access and usage of financial services. We now, with technology, which Dr. Nkalubo was talking about, and having had the National Payment Systems Act of 2020, we are promoting digital payments or electronic payments. But the cultural practices of within the community are barriers in this. In this day and age, someone will tell you, no, you don't have to be on mobile money. We have people who are still not on mobile money. And Bank of Uganda actually is the regulator for all mobile money service providers, including MTN and Airtel now. And that limits financial inclusion. We have got the issue of spouses, and you talked about ladies. Because we have the Financial Consumer Protection Guidelines of 2011, and the women, the wives, are forced to sign on loan agreements for their husbands to access loans. And these women don't know what they are signing for. That is a cultural practice vis-a-vis innovation, whereby we have a digital key facts document that actually our people can read. So my question to Dr. Nkalubo is, how can the community come in to support the various innovations within the financial ecosystem, so that ultimately we have an increase in financial inclusion in the Bunyoro Kitara Diocese? Thank you so much. Robert Wagonza, Bank of Uganda.
The role of politics. The very first president of this country, post-independence, was a king, Kabaka Mutesa. I'm awake David Mpanga, ably representing him. I'm awake Kabaka Mutesa was the first king. We have reached an era now where we try to separate cultural institutions from political leadership, which is absurd considering our history. Now, you find kingdoms have to separate themselves from leadership. Omukama Kabalega was arguably the greatest cultural leader on this continent, in my eyes at least. And we as Bunyoro, sadly, we don't appreciate and we're not as proud of that. So for me, mine is we need kingdoms involved in leadership. I have a personal experience. My biological uncle happens to be the prime minister of the kingdom, and we have to separate ourselves, our relationship. When I go to campaign and is an event, I have to be as far away. So the kingdom is not accused of being part of politics. And yet, the kingdom has got to offer leadership. The last bit is on AI. And maybe before I get to that, just innocent, also going to young leaders. I feel for you 5 years ago when I contested the first time, I didn't win. I came second in the NRM primaries. But the question I always got, Oli mwana muto, toka ikire kwereza kwebembera Bunyoro, you know, that kind of thing. And yet we have come of age. The president and his generation, when they went to the bush, they were younger than we were. And yet we are still told that we're too young. But this time, maybe things are changing. I've got the flag. I expect and hope if these people vote me, I'll be in parliament in January. But the last bit on Mr. Charles, Dr. Leonard, you spoke about AI. For us politicians, that's our biggest fear. You speak about Pegasus, you spoke about Iran and Israel, and we've seen deepfake, what they call deepfake now. You can fake audios and you claim that Jonah here wants to overthrow the government, and yet the man is being fought by innocent who wants his chair. So how do we navigate the era of AI with politics? Because some of us, our lives will be on the line if you're caught off guard. Thank you.
Now, in communication, there are two types of communication. There are what we call non-header protocol apps and header protocol apps. Now, you are worried about non-header protocol apps, like WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a non-header protocol app. If I forward to you a message, you cannot know where it has come from. But you forward an email to me. Have you tried to forward an email to somebody? Do you know what it says? It says, it will even give you details. Forwarded from so-and-so, at given date, given time, given subject. So don't worry about all the things that they are working, maybe using ChatGPT and changing images and messages. The problem comes on what channel has the message, video, text, picture, where it has been shared on. If it is WhatsApp, just forget it, because if somebody is taking you to court, you see, you know the law, our law. Huh? The one who accuses must prove. He's here. The lawyer is here. The onus is on you to prove that if you want to accuse somebody, you must have present evidence. But if it is an X protocol, it is a header protocol, app. If you shared some message on X about somebody, you will go to jail because information is there. If you shared an email somewhere and it is a bad message, you will be put in bars. But if it is a non-header application like WhatsApp, when you send, I can share a message now on WhatsApp, on a network. This one shares with another person. Currently, the current research on non-header protocol apps is still going on, like verifying a message. We have advanced, I don't want to go into details, but we have digital signatures on digital certificates, which can verify and authenticate and make checksums of messages from the sender up to the receiver. But I don't want to go into those details. Currently, as we are moving on the research on verifying whether a message or a picture or movie is invalid or it is a fake app or news is still going on. But we can verify using other protocols, specific protocols if you brought it up as an expert kind of project, we can verify, but generally, it's not within the user domain. It's not possible to verify currently, but research is going on. Something will be done on that. I wanted also to answer two things about the Bank of Uganda chief of laity for the Kitara diocese, and the other gentleman who talked about how can you use AI in business. Oh my God, you can use AI, for example, to identify the soil patterns. We have apps for that. You can use AI for finding diseases on cassava, on potatoes. You can use AI on security systems to survey your car, your house. You can use AI. All these are models, computer vision. You can even use NLP, natural language processing, to convert either Chinese language, or if you have like an investor who is here, you can write protocols which can convert maybe Bunyoro into another language and you use it for tourism. There are so many apps for AI. And we can use AI to develop or control our community. As I was telling you, you can develop apps, you can develop protocols and apps in payroll systems, billing systems, library systems, reservation systems. All these are developed now. You can have them developed in AI. So we still have a base trade or economy in AI. I would like to see that document. There's a gentleman who said he has a document. Please, before I will leave, share with me that document. You said you're a software engineer. If you're doing software engineering, that is even better, because software engineering is a big team. You're looking at a very big project. You're developing security, user interface, data validation schemes, backup systems. You're developing a lot of graphic user. There are so many things. So I would like to look into that document, maybe advise you or put it across various aspects, even within the stakeholders in Bunyoro. And maybe finally, the kingdom. I don't know who is representing the kingdom. Even the professor had issues here about putting things to the kingdom. I think the kingdom should come up. Earlier on we had, sorry to go far, the Muhikiro had a plan. He was calling it a Bunyoro Kitara database, human resource database system, whereby we actually wrote some aspects of it to ensure that every Bunyoro, every person within the kingdom, we can know you people, your qualifications from PhD, masters, bachelor's, diploma. We know where you are, what you do, your aspects, so that we can even put it on an app. If I want to employ somebody within my farm or within the district service commission, we don't have to move around and go to various districts. We can just use our database to follow up all those things. So it's a very big, broad picture, but AI is really can help us to move in so many aspects and develop our community. Thank you.
Our question is, what was the vision of Kabalega? Kabalega's vision was macro, of a united people with comprehensive security, living in harmony, with interests of food catered for and guaranteed, with interests of military security, using weaponry which is manufactured locally. If it must be imported, we do reverse engineering and make sure we produce it locally. The whole idea was to provide comprehensive security for Kabalega's people. And so in terms of informing today's leadership, we are saying, how about pursuing this great vision, the grand vision of Kabalega, a united people, not divided along petty lines, ethnicity, religion, sex, because even women were being empowered. People of all cultural origins would come to the high table, provided they demonstrated capabilities. How about adopting a vision of comprehensive security? We don't have a food store. I'm not aware of any for this country. 46 million people waiting for holy fire to meet our food security needs. I'm not aware of any depots of fuel that we depend upon. So the Kabalega was ahead of his times. We need to learn from Kabalega. The idea of encouraging innovation, cesarean sections. Many people controlling power would rather go and seek healthcare overseas using our money. How about strengthening our systems so that you treat every citizen in your country? How about building manufacturing capabilities for textiles, for iron ore? How about encouraging our own innovations, our own pharmaceuticals? If we did that, we would attain genuine independence, Kabalega style. Thank you very much.
Otio muno waitu omugambirizi awo mukoro gwa yitu ebimbalize go mu rujungu ngenda kubigara mu Bunyoro abakuba tuli mu mukoro gwa Bunyoro. Ninyowe Roberto wagonza kandi ninkorane ekitongole kikuru ky'ebyensimbo mu ihanga gete Bank of Uganda. Kyaba ningamba enyuma hongu nka Bank of Uganda atu kakwatanza na Kabalega Foundation kandi tuli bamuhalabo abasagikire entekaniza za Kabalega Foundation mwaka guno n'obukaikuru 10 za Uganda. Habo ensonga ngo mission yaitu ekubaza kutwara mu maiso kutekana kwa byensimbi kandi nokororangu twasagika enkurakurane y'abantu gete socio-economic transformation. So butwabwino omutwe guno ogutolekerwe gukubaza hakuhindura enyikara y'abantu kandi ekyo kikuru muno a Bank of Uganda habukwa bine bitukora hampero yabyona bikwa nibikwata abantu ababulikiro. So tuizire kwataniza na Kabalega Foundation kororangu bateiroho obulye bwokororangu bahindura enyikara y'abantu Bunyoro Omukama wa Bunyoro kitarangu nete twakwatanza nabo kandi ibintu byarubata kurungi ntuterera abantu ngwekyo kubanza esente tuzikozese kurungi kwekora kuraniza kandi obutukuba tuzikwata tutagumya gagazivunya mulingo tukasangire zikube mu omurundi gumu kandi oziteko munsawo kurungi mutalime ebina mukazahoro mu bina abakazi mutagenda kuziteko mbulega ekyakantu bayujukizangu omulembo gubabalizo gwa technology gwizire nebirungi bingi baitu hayiziremu nebizibu bingi. Abandi nywe personal identification number eyokozesa ATM na mobile money na handi eyakubere ne kukonyera niwo wenkana agikozesa muzifoire public identification number. Ngu enkore ya culture omukazi akugamba ngo bako batungire ATM runda account ngu pini yaye inagisharinga no Munyoro genda kwejukira Munyoro na agende sente zona naziya ha bank account no naziya ha mobile money ngo abokuba culture. So ntugamangu kino kikwenda kutunurwamu kugumya gasayiningiro omuntu abokuba wo Ruganda tunge loan kandi kuno tamumanyire nyera byaye ebikwatagana ebyensimbi genda kwejukira osayiningire nka garanta nibayijane bakutoza abokuba wagonza kalima kusosora loan genda kwehakana nibayenda gano kandi wasayiningire nebindi bindi muno turoho na nyenkya omukwiruka run aturoto kubasaba nyona muije niko tukwatanize kororangu twatwara maiso omurwa guno ogubatandikire mutyo muno.
Nebigambe ebyo munyikirize tuina chairman board of directors Kabalega Foundation Dr. James Isagara Kisora Amoti ali hamunaitwe Amoti nkutangiro mbitinisa byawe bayiraba sembero maiso kuno entekanize zigarukaho zikwetagisa kandi tumuterero mu ngaro naija Dr. James Isagara Kisoro Amoti.
Mwasi wa mtaa mienda ya Kitara. I will first of all start by respecting all protocol in the room. We did invite a number of people and I've not had a chance of looking at our registration, but all our brotherly cultural institutions in the room today, notably our brother David Impanga from Buganda. We are very privileged to have you and in the capacity representing the Prime Minister. Thank you so much for making it to this lecture. We have our sister from Busoga, a granddaughter, and we are so privileged that we could get to you to come and join us for this lecture and that you did it justice. That's exactly what I wanted to see that we achieved, and to know that we could start this lecture and be able to convene people from far and wide to come and discuss this theme of transformative leadership. Modi, thank you so much for the good job you've done delivering this lecture. I'm very cognizant of the time that we've spent in this room, and I wouldn't want to give a speech. I just want to thank everyone that made it today for this lecture. From far and wide, we believe that this platform is one that we can leverage, as we've always said in our communications, leveraging a hero's legacy to inspire social, cultural, and economic transformation of our society. We believe that we have so much value in our culture. We believe we have so much value in our heritage that if we can enhance how we look at it, if we can embrace it, if we can ensure that we carry it alongside the modernity that we have in the technology that my friend Dr. Nkalu has ably articulated, how the youth can be able to think about culture not as a tool of backwardness, but as a way of understanding where they come from, to look at the way that they can go forward with the past being very alive in their lives for the heritage that we hold in it, but looking forward to the opportunities that come with the advancements that we have around us. I also want to thank our very good moderator, of course, Dr. Cindy. Thank you. And I believe we couldn't have had a better option for moderating this very day's lecture. And I appreciate that when I reached out, as it is with most of these, all of the panelists, there was no one who had any second thought on coming to join us for this lecture. I have a couple of friends that joined us today. Of course, I can't fail to thank our partners. We have quite a number. You've just seen one of them, Bank of Uganda, and ably represented by my friend Robert. Thank you so much for the honors to come and represent, and also coming home, because this is also your territory, being the head of Leyte. We want to thank so many others. We have, I think, a list of them that I will want to not go into detail, but we do have Conrad Adeno, Steve Tang, who are the main sponsors of this lecture. And when we had this launch, the launch of this lecture, we were in this very hotel, just maybe a level below, and we had the opportunity of hosting a team of representatives from Conrad. And we got a very good enlightenment about the comparison between Omukama Kabalega and the first Chancellor of Germany, Konrad Adenauer, in terms of their transformative impact in the community, in terms of how they looked at leadership, in terms of the changes they made in society that up to now, Konrad may be more recent, but Kabalega, as we celebrated recently, the 100 years, we still talk about him as if he was here yesterday. Those are lessons for us to learn. Konrad is one that was the Chancellor of Germany, I think, around the 60s, but he is still a legacy leverage for today's society in Germany. We are talking about Pan-Africanism here. Our good friend Anne from Konrad Adenauer was telling us about the European idea. That is the idea of uniting for the common good. And I'm privileged to see that we have some representatives of our leaders. I saw the mayor around, but you know it's a political season and they are drawn far and wide for their attention. But I can see some political contenders. Mr. Omani, pleasure to have you in here. And thank you for coming to take part in this discussion. We would have loved that as many of your fellow politicians come and attend this lecture, because we have a society, I think, that we have a few things to reflect upon on whether the leadership that we have and the current season being the very right time, whether people are seeking the political offices for the right reasons. It was intentional to choose this lecture theme for this time, that hopefully someone who is aspiring to be a leader understands that it is more than just seeking that office. It takes some good understanding of what a leader should be and how a leader should look at society to be able to ably lead society. And of course, hoping that everyone aspires to have a contribution to the society that we live in. If we can all look at leadership in that way, then I think we have a way to go in transforming our society. We have Africa as a unique setting where we've come from a very rich heritage being introduced to democracy. When we come to democracy, it comes with a few alignments, but does it exactly need us to forfeit our culture? Does it need us to forfeit our traditional systems of governance? Does it need us to forget about our heritage for us to move into modernity? Professor Kiza, in the previous lecture, did mention something quite interesting, that there has been the Westernization theory that whatever is not Western is backward. And that is a very absurd thing to think about, because we've not always been united with the West in our civilizations, but we had our life here. We had our medicines, as you ably said. We had our education systems. We had our everything that we could talk about, that we only integrated for the globalization of our processes. But it shouldn't take away our identity as Africans. It shouldn't take away our heritage. We believe we can jointly carry those along into the future. And we believe that this lecture, I'm glad I see so many youthful faces around. I will thank my fellow leaders from Yali, the Young African Leaders Initiative. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. And those are colleagues with whom we attended the Young African Leaders Fellowship. And wherever we've attended, wherever we've organized these events, they've been very handy. And that is what we learned, the aspect of working together, unity, and having a purpose for the leadership, that at whatever level you have, to be able to lead with a purpose. I want to have a very lengthy speech. I didn't mean to make a speech, but I thought I should say a few things here and there. I, of course, want to acknowledge the presence of representatives from our very institution, Bunyoro Kingdom, from which the legacy that we celebrate, the great king that we celebrate, Kabalega, hails. Tinsa Tua, I thank you for making the time to be around. And we had apologies that I should convey to the lecture attendants today, that the Prime Minister sent his very deep regrets for not being able to be here today due to engagements that needed him to be in Kampala at the same time. But he did take the time to convey his best wishes to everyone that made it to the lecture, and we hope that we take the message from the broad context that our lecture deliverers, the keynote and the panelists, have delivered to us, and take it to heart for the transformation that we need in our society. I'll not forget to acknowledge, of course, I see so many faces, I worry that I will not be able to recognize everyone, but whoever is in this room, as I've interacted with some and not yet some, I appreciate you being here today. I've been sitting with my elder brother, with Tinisa Mbitolimi. Tinisa Olimi is the former queer, the former head of the clan of the Babito, under which I belong. So we appreciate your presence. We have Tinisa George Muhoruzi, the head of our regalia. I think I should mention the names of some of these people for recognition. Without the regalia that he heads and takes custody of, we wouldn't have the Bunyoro we talk about. Waitu Isitom Ruhanga, Reverend Adanka, titles Nankezo Sakustavra, but Bonaventure Isitwe, thank you so much for making it at work. And everyone in the room, I see so many fellow colleagues from different places. I see people, have friends who have traveled from Kampala. Some I've interacted with yet and some not yet, but I appreciate you, all you being here. Our entertainers, thank you so much. We believe that dance of the Bunyoro cultural dance adds so much value. We can't celebrate Kabalega without having the chance to have the entertainment that we believe, and I know for a fact that he enjoyed himself. So thank you so much. And at this juncture, I want to take the opportunity to, knowing that we want to wrap up this event in the least time possible, I will want to take this singular honor to invite the representative of the Prime Minister of Bunyoro to come and say a word. And maybe as he comes, because of protocol, I'll request that after, maybe before we can hear from the Prime Minister, we can have a chance to hear from one of the grandchildren of Omukama Kabalega. We have a family that Kabalega left. I happen to be a second generation grandson. And I have a brother that I think could say a word or two before we can have the representative from the Prime Minister's office.
I would like to say, all protocol observed. My name is John Nyabongo Olimi. I'm a son of Omobi Toleti Nyabongo. Nyabongo was a son of Rwakswaza. Rwakswaza was a son of Omukama Kabalega. People usually tease me and they say I look like Kabalega, that I have an ugly nose. I would like to take this opportunity to, first of all, to thank the panelists and also to thank the chairperson of Kabalega Foundation for organizing this function to recognize the good deeds of our late grandfather. And I would like to thank all of you here present for coming to witness the recognition of our late grandfather. He was at one time recognized as a hero. He's among the heroes of Uganda. We also thank the government for recognizing him as a hero. He's indeed a hero. He left a legacy. The Kabalega, the institute you want to launch, Kabalega already had an institute here. It was in Mwenge, Bagietagagali Hoima. He had an institute where he would train his chiefs, like the current government trains leaders in Kyankwanzi. In 1890, Kabalega already had that wisdom that he must have a leadership institute to train his chiefs and even to train the princes, so that if one of them emerges to be king, to take over, he's properly trained. As I wind up, there is only one remark I want to make. We are talking about artificial intelligence and advancement in technology. But we are saying as we go into the new era of IA and advancement in technology, we should not forget our culture. Because we have countries that have advanced in IA before us, but have preserved their culture. We have countries like China, which are so advanced. We have the Arab world here, which is advanced. They have, but they still maintain their culture. They even want to deny visas to our children who are going there without culture. We can go into the new era, but still preserve our culture. Can still preserve our culture. We can preserve our language. We can preserve our dressing. Because they are good values that come with artificial intelligence and modernity. But there are also bad values that come with artificial intelligence and modernity. There are good values in our culture which we can preserve. Even as we go into IA, we go into robotics, we can still maintain our culture. Going into IA does not mean that our children should walk naked. We can go into IA and dress properly like our granddaughter here. With those few remarks, I wish you a good night and good traveling back. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Yeah, we welcome Namoti for the remarks. And as I said, it was in the interest of having the family saying a word so that we can move on to the kingdom. I just don't want to forget thanking our hosts, the Hoima Resort Hotel, Mr. Martin Award, wherever you are, I saw you there. Please stand up for recognition. We've had a very cordial working relationship with Hoima Resort, with Mr. Awori, that Mr. Awori by origin comes from the East, but he came here and got naturalized, and among the few people that I've met that have embraced the Bunyoro that we believe can take us forward, and is very forthcoming when we discuss the things that can actually transform community, as with the many things that we do together here. I haven't met as many as Martin, so thank you so much, and we hope we see more of you in this place for the development that we need. I also want to thank the team from Kabalega Foundation. I have Ramjet here, and Claire, and Derek, and Ruth, and so many other people that I stand here to speak, but I came to Hoima today morning. These people have been running up and down and doing ABCD, so I would be not fair if I did not recognize their effort. Thank you so much, and I wish you a nice evening. We have a dinner that I'll want to take this opportunity to invite you to right after the speeches. But let me take this singular honor to invite the representative of the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Autiomuno Daktari Omukugu James Amoti Kisoro kando mwebembezi wekitebe kinu ekyomusingi gwa Kabalega kwenda kutangira bagenzi bange waitu okwire yahumwire wekitinisa olimi waitu wekitinisa muhuruzi omukuru w'ebikwato omutalindwa yahumwire kandi omuhikirwa wekitinisa bone kyaligonza waitu omugatwa wekitinisa wagonza Robert nyowa amabara banyeta tuha Moses empaka Moti omusonga Omukama ndi muhandiki w'orukurato nintwale byoburambuzi hamwe byobulimi semerere kuba hano kwenda kutangira abaturabireme kigambo waitu okitinisa mpanga kuruga Buganda kutangirire we bali kuija waitu okitinisa kiza kandi ogwa kansomesa Makerere bine byobwebembeze byakubaza waitu omukugu Nkalubo webale nemirimo yone yokora omwijukuru waitu kuruga Busoga kandi akesimba bwa president webale omukugu Magara Sindi ogwo tukasoma hamuduhaga n'abantu bona abali hano waitu wamani yakutaga ayesimbire ha Hoima East kandi hamuna candidate wa FDC webale nayo kuije ogwa yesimbire abo meya PFF n'abantu bona abayizire kwenda bayiki akuramukya kuruga mu muhikirwa okitinisa ndu byakutaga tenyi tasobole kuba hano kandi yansaba nyije tukwatanize hamu na daktari turole nti omusomo gunu twagumaliriza kurungi ntubaza hali Kabalega ntubaza habo bebembezi kiri kikuru muno nk'Omukama ebikaguzo bingi bibaire nibijja habukama Kabalega kafuuka mukama ha myaka 16 kandi kara ayaziika gayise no yafuukaga mukama no yajumuraga engoma nawe ekyo Kabalega kasingura mugenzi we kabigumiri yajumula engoma ha myaka 16 natandika obwebembezi niki abasigazi babeni babaza nti obayija kugenda mbwebembezi bagamba bakyali bato kwaha 16 Kabalega najumula engoma nawe kitukwenda kusiima kutuha ekyo kuroleraho ekirungi kandi wakaba musajja webikorwa hati kiro kine kikutalibaniza biri bigambo bingi abantu bakubaza nibabaza baitu okukwika kukora ni kuba kuke kwenda kusiima ndakitali kurora yatunga ekitekerezo tukaba mukoro gwo kuzika omuka obunyakugambire nti kine kiwakozere kigaruira babito haiguru abatembuzo barugireho haija bachwezi twarugomba chwezi twejomba bitu Kabalega hikize myaka 12 atulize baitu emyaka 3 enyuma omukuru Dr. James Kisoro akatunga ekitekerezo nti kiki ekitukusobora kukora kuijuka Kabalega naitwe nkobukama twakiteeka hamani nti wakaba nahike emyaka 10 atulize tukole ebintu byenyahukana hata obyayizire nekitekerezo twamugamba hati ebikwasire ha Kabalega ebyo natukozereki tubikukwasize kirungi oli mwijukuru woha wa Kabalega nabo ekyo nkwenda tumuterere engaro za amani kurora nti ekitekereza kakitunga atakangira kitunga yatandika kutekaniza omukuru ona alibasire bitongole alibasire ombantu ahandikire baruha kurora nti ekintu kinu twakitandika kandi nkwenda kusiima habukwesiga obukama nti tukatandika hamu na tukyali bata hamu mukiterere mu ngaro takangira aho akateekaho kuiruka hano buli kya mukaga tuirukira hano director we hotel no Bunyoro wori tuba nawe Bunyoro cyake ombito tuba nawe kurora nti no bwomezi bw'abantu titukangira kuijuka Kabalega baitu nabaroho hati obwomezi bwaitu obwiruka mu katagaso mubiri obuhukani bwiruka onoba no bwomezi oburungi nabo kyo buli kya mukaga abatakayizire esaha emu tubantu iruka ntwetorole nyu eruguru kunu kandi kunu harungi muno ebiruka tibiriyo bingi nabo ekyo muije tutwalo maiso ekirali kya Kabalega ebigambo bayigente ekanize bingi nkobukama mubalizo obuzaraanwa niyo kaliche ito babujunaniza bwaitu kukitwaro maiso no kulinda kandi ntukikora tukateekaho Kabalega byakize myaka 10 kuhandika ebitabu omuhaba handikira ali Isaac Kalembe ekitabu kiroho kikubaza ali Kabalega Omunyoro nsamba nawe yahandika ekitabu Omunyoro rukahemura nawe yahandika ekitabu kurora nti tutasomaga busome by'abajungu bahandikire hali Kabalega okuba abandi bakabane bigenderwe bitali birungi naitwe nk'Abanyoro tubeho naitwe kitukumanya ekitukuhandika halo kandi bukurole bitabo ebyo timanyire dokita tubiine hano okusobora kutunga kopi ogenda osomemu orole Kabalega ebintu byakozere bintu bingi muno ekyo kubanza kugarura ekitinisa kya Bunyoro nti no mujungo byayizire hano kuhanura akamugamba kuwaha isenyoka murasi obukama buna kabulekaho isenkuru nyowolimi obukama buna kabulekaho obuzarano kimanyise kiwasangireho naiwe kubaho kiroho kandi naiwe ukakora ki ukakirekaho nabo cyo bwebembezi buno butabe bwabera mbanda bakabuleka hanu na nyombu sangireho ntwetwara itwenka nabo kitutubija kwikiriza akakimanya asobora kutabasobora abo kuba bakabaine byo kurwanisa byenyahukana baita kagamba kusingurwa nkoraki ngwayo kandi niko kyakabaire nobukira abakituluma nti bagenzi baitu wekitinisa mpanga nti inyo abajungu bayizire mu abatangire baitu yabatumira baga abantu abayizire tibali barungi baitu hanyuma mukakizora nikyo kurora mwanga kamalira mweteranizoho babakwatira dokolo kangai kandi babatwara babasiba omukizinga mwanga kamara emyaka 4 yafuirayo Kabalega kamarayo obusumi bwe bwone emyaka 24 kandi bamutayisura akafuira jinja mpumudde nekichweka bakiyibara lyekinyoro mpumuire bo bageta mpumudde nikikuoleka kumalira kandi kigambibu nitwe benyine abakozereki abamwitire no barabagamba influenza kisenyiga baitu kigambibu obutwa bukarugankaha Bunyoro hano oba mutayiswire kusemerero kaba kwingi abajungu batina bakoragana nabantu ba hanu bamutwekera abana Omukama basobora kumara ebinde by'abantu benda kubibaza baitu mukuseruliriza niko kyabayire nikyo yagambire mpumuire akabunywa akimanyire amachunde akimanyire nti alimo obuto okuba babagana nabafumu babagambira gekikwiche baitu Kabalega ekinde kiyakozere kuiho kuombeka iheri amani akagenda mbyo okusubura omunyo gulaho kibiro gumaze emyaka 10 hamuna amasanga yabitwaraga Mombasa ha coast na bihingisa n'abaharabu nibamuhe mundu nebinte bindi yayombeka hane iheri amani baitu yayombeka Bunyoro ni yabaye amani muno bakoraga enfuka ntulima tukora nebinte bindi nabwekyo Kabalega obulemu bwakabumara nyongambira abantu kiro kinu nti atobule mu buroho buli bwaitu nobukira abantu tukatunga kwerema nkaga nebiri kutabe kwerema okumarayo nawekyo bujunanize bwaitu kurora itu twarwana obulemu bwa hati oburoho nkobukama tukugambe ntahyo maka omukuru webyeminyeeta abalizegeha abanyoro Omukama kujja kubaza bajwere nkaito zirime bihuru nebinte bindi niyo community yaitu niba abantu baitu niko bali entahya tekozereki terinungi nawe tukatetandikaho kuli mu mwani nobutulatu akiboine ombagenzi baita baganda bulika erime ho mwani erinde ebisoro niko tusobole kurora bulika eine entahya otaina ntahya nebyo buzarano to kubitwaro maiso enganda zaitu to kujja kuitwaro maiso tuine enganda 10 nenkaga kugenda haiguru olulimi lwaitu abantu bajja kurubaza ataina muka sente nka munsaho ebyo okulya byaitu akaro nebindi byenzarwa ati harobi nebizire muno okubanza kugura nibono genda kubyara amazina gaitu nkwenda kusima dokita kurora waleta abasajja baterera urunyenge rwenyini nabwekyo obule mu buroho dokita abalizoho ha technology nayo tugiye konyeze kurora twagendo maiso ebyo burambuzi nabyo tukwenda kubitwaro maiso Kabalega ali imparo mutunga kaire muije murambule muije murole muije musome ebigambe bindi tukwijja bibaze kiro kindi nkwenda abendeza kubagondeza kugaruka yo kurungi kandi mbagamba kabumba ali yasingire rukira abasajja gutamba iguru okubanza muijukuru Kabalega iguru azarwa satito winyi nazarwa Kabalega nazarwa kamurasi nazarwa olimi nawe kyo niko tuli abana bengoma nabo baliyo baguruka omugo aliyo achuraine nawe kyo nkugondeza Nyamuhanga abalese abagarule obusinge kandi muhangale nko buro enkole ihukuru mugambe nikikabuke ni yamin webale daktari
tiwali wa Bunyoro bonka boko wekulembeze okutwara ensi yaito maiso okutwara abantu baito maiso tuli anu Bunyoro bonka tukubwetaga nk'Abanyafrika